Hello and welcome to 2019 and a new year of the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And 2019's Sean Chapman.
It's the new model, new and improved.
Yes.
We are here to talk about stuff for a whole new season, Sean.
Another year.
Another year of the Weekly Stuff Podcast. This week on the show, we are kicking off what is basically going to be Dragon Ball month on the show in honor of the new Dragon Ball movie, Dragon Ball Super Broly, coming to American theaters on January 16th, I believe, is the day we're getting it. It's Wednesday the 16th. And we are both very excited for it. And we are both very big Dragon Ball fans, but we've never really done an episode with a dedicated Dragon Ball topic before.
Yeah, because it was something that when we started the podcast, Dragon Ball was something we both liked a lot, but had been over for a very long time by that point. And then Dragon Ball Super started, and we talked about some of those movies, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, on the podcast when those happened. But, you know, if you've been listening to the podcast the past couple of months, you know that Jonathan has finally gotten around to watching Dragon Ball Super, whereas I have been kind of keeping up with it in fits and starts while it was ongoing. And so now that we have both are on the same playing field, we just have Dragon Ball that we can talk about that's new and relevant.
Yeah, so because the new movie is coming out, we're kind of doing two episodes here. One you'll hear this week, one you'll hear next week, which is there's the Dragon Ball Super part of Dragon Ball Super Broly, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the TV show Dragon Ball Super. It's been over for almost a year. It ended March 2018.
Yeah.
So it's been over for almost a year. I've seen the whole thing. You've probably, if you're listening to this, have seen the whole thing if you like Dragon Ball. If not, you should. It's really good. And we're going to talk about the TV show and just the ups and downs of it and what we liked and didn't, and just celebrate the new Dragon Ball hotness out in the world.
Yes.
And talk about that. And then next week we will be reviewing really looking back on a retrospective on the original 3 Broly movies that were in the original Dragon Ball Z movie chronology.
Yeah.
And we actually just watched the first of those, the first Broly movie, the long one, which is a fucking trip, man.
It's so weird. It is a really strange outlier in the canon of Dragon Ball movies.
In so many ways.
Yes.
We will talk about that and the other two next week, and I'm very excited to do that one. But yeah, we're going to do that. That'll be our main topic this week is Dragon Ball Super. Next week will be the Broly movies, but we have other topics as well. Since it is New Year's Day, we got the Doctor Who New Year's special, which is what they're doing now, I guess. We're going to talk about that. It had Daleks in it. Yeah.
Well, it had a Dalek.
It had a Dalek in it. It was a janky-ass looking scrap metal Dalek, and I liked that.
Yes. That was the best part of the episode.
The production design was good.
Yes.
There you go. So yeah, we'll talk about that. We will. I don't know if we have anything more to say than that, honestly. But we'll talk.
It has not been that long since we last recorded a podcast.
We'll talk about that. I saw the movie Aquaman last night, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So yeah, that will be our episode to kick off the new year. But Sean, it is the new year.
Yes, it is.
It is. We're recording this on January 2nd. You're hearing it a little bit later. But that means we're in a new year of the Weekly Stuff Podcast, and this is, Sean, the 8th year of the show. Mm-hmm. This is season 8. And Sean, while I was bored earlier this morning, I decided to take a look. What are some long-running TV shows that we have now run longer than in terms of years?
We're almost there. X-Files is 9, so we're not quite there on X-Files, but we're
I made a list.
Terrifyingly getting there. Okay.
I made a list of 10 shows. These are in alphabetical order.
Okay.
All right? These are all shows that ran 6 or 7 seasons, now that we are running 8.
Okay, yes, yeah.
This includes Breaking Bad, Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
yes,
Gilmore Girls.
Okay,
that's yours.
That's
That's my intro to this. Lost ran 6. Parks and Recreation ran 7. This is my favorite block: Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, The Next Generation, and Voyager. All 7 seasons. We beat them all. The Sopranos, 6 seasons. Yeah. Well, it was like 6.5. It was the same thing as Breaking Bad. They split the last season, so really it's 7. And because I couldn't find another one, I Googled for a while, and then I was like, this was a show. I've never seen it, but people like it. Xena Warrior Princess. ran 6 seasons on the on UPN, I think.
Now I need to check how many seasons the parent show, Hercules: The Legendary Journey.
The show no one remembers actually exists because people only cared about the spin-off Xena.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, but yes, while you're looking that up, the Weekly Stuff Podcast. This is episode 271. We're into our 8th year. It's been a journey, Sean. We are closer to a decade of this show than we are to half a decade of this show.
Yes, and Hercules: Legendary Journeys also ran for 6 seasons, so we're longer than that also.
Yeah, so there you go.
Suck it, Kevin Sorbo, the guy who played Hercules in Hercules: Legendary Journeys. A factoid I didn't know I knew until that just came up.
Oh, man. All right. Well, next week we will be reviewing all of Hercules and Xena. No, just kidding. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, so, not a lot has changed. We're not doing anything really new this season. We're going to talk about what we like to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for sticking around. We hope you liked last week's episode where we counted down the top 10 games of 2018, but now it's a clean slate.
As clean as a slate as you can expect at this point.
Because it's
in the history of the human race.
Because it's the new year, I feel like we should... I don't think we're going to have time this year to do our normal, 2019 in preview episode.
No.
Which, frankly, just... Here's how the sausage is made. That's the episode we do every year because sometimes January and February are quiet and we don't have things to talk about. There's plenty going on. I'm not worried about that. Is there anything in particular in the world of film, TV, gaming, all of that you're particularly excited for in 2019?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much. I'm excited to see the next Avengers movie, and we're getting the next Star Wars movie this year, right?
We are, yeah. I keep forgetting.
The end of that trilogy.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see. It feels like for both of those, like a culmination of a pop culture thing we've been following for a long time now.
Yes. So yeah, Star Wars Episode 9, and I'm very excited for Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen with Star Wars 9. But they're shooting it. It exists.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to make a sequel to The Last Jedi, which I would not envy anyone. I like that saying, I like The Last Jedi, but The Last Jedi feels like the end of that story, not...
Yes, yeah. Especially, it'll be... I'm just mostly interested to see what the fuck does J.J. Abrams do after it feels like Rian Johnson went in and said, fuck your movie, man. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately, the movie I'm most excited to see this year is probably the new Dragon Ball movie. In a weird way.
Oh, yeah, in terms of the one I think will be the one I will enjoy the most, yes.
Yeah, but, there's all of that. I am fascinated to see the box office of Disney this year.
Oh, God.
Because
I'm horrified to see it.
Because I've counted this on the show before, how many movies I think they have in the bag to get $1 billion, and it's at least 6.
Jesus.
And so very curious where that goes. I think we're getting the new Wonder Woman movie this year. That might have gotten pushed to 2020 because it was going to open against Star Wars 9. But, spoilers for when I talk about Aquaman. I really, really liked Aquaman, and I'm like, I kind of want to see if DC can keep making good things. That would be really nice, because they've done 2. They've done 2, and it's great. It's, terrible batting average, but I'll take 2. 2 is better than 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's movies, games. I feel like we really don't know a ton of what is coming out this year concretely.
Yeah, this year I think is going to be interesting because I feel like we're, now it's starting to feel more real, the sense of, we are starting we're at the beginning phase of the transition into the next generation of consoles.
And it's a weird space where that's very true on the PS4 side of things. And on the Switch, the Nintendo Switch looks like it's going to have a really big year because we're getting Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem, the new Fire Emblem game, Three Houses, is coming out.
Probably the next mainline Pokemon game will come out this
year.
Yep,
they've said that several times. That's their goal. So we're going to have a new mainline Pokemon. We've got the new Yoshi. We might have Metroid Prime 4. There's just... Nintendo's clearly going to have that, healthy mid-generation year.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like PS4 is going to have a good year. They've got some strong exclusives on the horizon. And if Last of Us Part 2 is this year, I mean... goddamn, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
But, I would not put money on it, I don't think, necessarily. I guess if I had to, if you told me I had to bet one way or another, I think that's probably a 2019 game, but I don't know. Naughty Dog probably doesn't know for sure.
Yes, yeah.
At this point. So gaming is weird. Curious, because we say PS4 and Nintendo, the question is Xbox in the middle there, will they have anything? No idea.
Crackdown might come out.
Crackdown might come out. I wonder if there will be anything other than Crackdown 3. Because they've had 2 years in a row without notable exclusives, which is just unprecedented, and I'm very curious where they go from there.
I mean, what they would be, is it Forza Motorsport 8 is what they're on now?
Yep.
Okay.
Because so
that'll come out.
Yeah. Forza Motorsport 8. I don't know.
Those always come out.
It feels like we just finished this giant fucking marathon with 2018, and I'm just looking ahead at we haven't started the marathon yet. But we're getting there.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to have this fucking bloodbath in the middle of February in terms of video game stuff. Anthem's coming out, and I'm curious what the fuck that thing's going to be. We have like all this stuff with like Resident Evil 2 remake and all that.
Oh yeah. Will either of us play Anthem? I don't know.
Who knows?
Will I wind up playing Kingdom Hearts 3? I don't know. It's going to be a year. But there you go. That's our little 2019 mini preview.
Yes,
just for fun.
And no Doctor Who this year, which is a blessing and a curse.
Honestly, Sean, let's just transition into that.
Yeah.
And we'll just talk about it. Thank God I don't have to watch another Chris Chibnall episode of Doctor Who this year. Mm-hmm. And I say that, so we're going to talk about the Doctor Who New Year's special. It's called Resolution. We're not going to do the usual, I think, amount of depth we do with these. So we'll go maybe 10, 20 minutes on this. Tops.
We'll see.
There's not that much to talk about here.
It's true.
But there will be spoilers. Not that I think there's anything of significance spoiled here. Like, no they didn't.
Ryan has a dad.
Yay.
He's in this episode, and there's a Dalek, and it's in this episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. I think this is, like, without question, the best episode Chibnall has written since becoming showrunner. It's better than any of the ones he did in season 11 proper, like, just far and away. Like, it's better paced. It has, like, the dad stuff is stupid, but it at least nominally connects to the action of the main plot by the end, which is something
sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. The dad's there, and they involve him. Not in a way that makes any narrative sense, but he is there.
Yeah.
He's technically involved.
But it's a step above the like Arachnids in the UK, where we have this whole side plot about Graham being really sad, which has nothing to do ever with the main plot of the episode. So, there's no super, I don't know, like, annoying, like, I mean, there is some annoying technobabble. It does not get to the same level where, like, the plot goes so completely off the rails. It's mostly normal Dalek stuff, which, I feel like I've grown a tolerance for over years of watching Doctor Who. And as I said to you before we went on the air, it has a Dalek in it, and if you do a Doctor Who episode with a Dalek in it, you're going to feel more like Doctor Who. That's harder to fuck up. Like, it's great Dalek episodes are pretty hard to come by, but like super awful ones are rare. Yeah. Like, usually they fall in that, because it's Daleks and Doctor Who just go together, bread and butter, you can usually get to a good, like, stasis. And, what I wrote on Twitter is that I think Chris Chibnall finally reached his Mark Gatiss moment. And I don't know if it's even that good.
No.
But it's like, it's progress. It's not progress that's going to stick. It's progress because he probably had more time to write this episode. But whatever. It's like, it's not good. I hate all the characters. This Doctor grates on me so much at this point. But what did you think?
I mean, like, because honestly, because you watched it earlier today, right? So you're
really
I watched
fresh
off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday from this recording, which is the day it came out.
Do you want to know why I went to see Aquaman?
Because you didn't want to watch this?
There it is. It was one, I had not been out of the house except to go to your house for about 4 days because I had been just sick, and then my brother got sick, and we just hadn't gone anywhere. And I knew that if I stayed home, that fucking episode was sitting on my laptop. It was like, no, I'm going to go watch Aquaman because it can't be as bad as this. Or at least, if it's bad, it'll be more interestingly bad.
Yeah.
But, Aquaman was great, so we'll talk about that, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not as fresh off of it as you, and I think this episode is one of those Chris Chibnall episodes where it's like, while you're watching it for the first half or so, it's like, this is fairly enjoyable. It's like, it's like the Ghost Monument or something. It's like, okay, I kind of like this, and then as soon as it's over, you start souring on it, and then like a day later, you look back, and I'm like, that episode's fucking terrible. Like, it's only tolerable and like one of the better Chris Chibnall episodes entirely by the virtue of it having much better production values than, any of like the middle season, like Strunga Conundrum and all that shit, which is, are like fairly competently put together episodes of television, but nothing like exceptional at all. And if not anything exceptional in terms of the production, sometimes it's lackluster.
And they don't have an antagonist who has the inherent just weight of a Dalek.
Exactly. So the Dalek stuff is inherently entertaining in its own right, and like and the production value around that makes it fun to watch. But in terms of the standard of like storytelling you would hold any story to, and certainly any episode of Doctor Who to, I think this hits basically every single pitfall a Chris Chibnall episode hits. And I think it hits them harder in some areas than other episodes do. And honestly, at this point, I think I would still probably take The Woman Who Fell to Earth over this one. I think that episode is still more narratively coherent.
It's so long. I know they're both the same length. Woman Who Fell to Earth feels like twice as long to me.
I don't know. I actually disagree. I feel Resolution at some point starts to feel longer. Because Resolution, ironically, has 2 resolutions. It's an episode that finishes fucking twice. It's like, no.
I will take janky, cool scrap metal Dalek over fucking Tim Shaw any day of the week.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Dalek's more compelling than Tim Shaw, but The Woman Who Fell to Earth at least had, like, the wherewithal to have, like, the book ending of Ryan trying to ride the bike, and there was some, like, emotional coherence and thoroughness to that.
Yeah.
That nothing in Resolution even, like, comes close. Like Resolution so horrendously misunderstands its core emotional hook of Ryan and his dad that, like, the entire episode disintegrates at some point to me around that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I say it's better than the other Chris Chibnall episodes, that's not me saying it's good.
No, yes, I understand.
We're grading on a relative curve. You're the one who made me do the fucking ranking exercise with all the Series 11 episodes.
Which we might, who knows, we might revisit in the conversation briefly. I did break out.
Again, I would put it above all the other Chibnall written episodes. I would not put it above the non-Chibnall written episodes necessarily. It's better than Kerblam, but, you know, everything's better than Kerblam. Yeah, I don't know. There are things I liked about it. Like, again, janky scrap metal Dalek, fucking awesome. That is a good Dalek design that I would not mind seeing again in the future, and I liked that. The callback to, like, the Dalek, like, builds itself a body in the way that the Doctor built herself the sonic screwdriver is the one time they've effectively done any kind of callback this season of Doctor Who where the history of the stories they've told so far mattered. There you go. Storytelling 101, they did it.
But since they never do anything more with that, it feels like a complete and utter accident.
It is.
They just stumbled on it, and it feels like they're like, oh, that sort of maybe kind of looks like that scene. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
They just went with it.
I liked the woman who played the main guest star here. What was I forget the character's name. It doesn't matter. But the lady archaeologist instead of dude archaeologist. She was good, and I liked her performance while she was, like, controlled by the Dalek, which I thought was, like, I would love to see it in a better episode of Doctor Who, but the idea of a Dalek just, like, attached to someone's back and controlling them, I was like, that's really cool. I wish they were doing more with it, but that's a good idea to, like, mix up the Dalek thing. You know, the Doctor never really encounters the person in that form except via hologram, which was weird. So, yeah, those are things I liked. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. It ended eventually.
It stops, you know. It's got that whole microwave bit.
It ends. No sense. It ends like every other episode this season with just monotonous technobabble that allows them to just save the day and save the Dalek. Here's something that this is going to get nitpicky, but also like fuck it. Let's get nitpicky for a second.
Okay.
Why? I get that Chris Chibnall made the choice this season of, like, we're not going to call back to the past too much this season with Doctor Who, which is a choice showrunners have made in the past, and that's fine. I think the degree to which he did it made no sense in the season, but, like, the degree to which he does it in this episode with, like, the planet Earth doesn't know that aliens exist and, like, alien invasions are, like, a foreign concept and all this stuff. Like, they did that a little bit in Woman Who Fell to Earth, but, like, they pushed that hard here, like, to the degree that, like, Unit, like, we can talk about the whole Unit thing in a second, but, like, to the degree that people don't even know what the Doctor is fucking talking about with Unit is, like, but that was, like, last season. Last season there were Unit stories. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't, like, I can understand if it had been 5 seasons since Unit was on the show. But that's not the case. Like, you can't just pretend you're making a new show. This is year 11 of an ongoing TV series. Yeah. If you ignore Classic Who. If you take in Classic Who, this is the 55th season or something, you know? So, like, there's just things like that I don't... It feels like... And even, like, when something that really rang false to me throughout this episode... I mean, everything with the Doctor rings false at this point because it's not a character. But whenever the Doctor would talk about the Dalek and her relationship with it, it was just, like, the most generic Doctor Who Dalek dialogue where it sounded like someone who had never actually seen Doctor Who or a Dalek story was writing about, like, they're my enemy and I hate them and I won't let them win, but I'm going to give you a chance I'll be merciful, but not too merciful because I think I don't like them, right? Right? Am I getting this right? Like, that's what, did you get that feeling too? It's like...
100%. I think it's one of the things about this episode that one of the reasons why it really sort of, you know, it fails to do anything meaningful or significant or like what it would want to be able to do, or what, like, I feel like is for me the bare minimum level of acceptable for a Dalek story, which is to have the Dalek not just be the Dalek is a cool, like, thing that shoots people as, like, it's this cool monster. That's one box you need to tick. There's a way more important box you need to tick, which is that the Dalek represents, like, fascism and hatred and cruelty and violence on like this extreme fascistic genocidal scale, and they are stand-ins for the Nazis and that kind of ideology. Like, that's how they were created, that's how they were developed in early Doctor Who, that's what they represent in their best stories, even if it's not like, you know, putting a fine point on examining all the intricacies of fascism as a political ideology. You know, at least it will do stuff like, you know, what The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar, those 2 episodes from season 9 did, which, you know, those are more Davros-focused episodes. But when the Dalek stuff comes up, it's talking about how they hate things and about their, like, exclusion of any positive emotion and how they sort of, like, brainwash the Daleks to be these hateful killing machines. Even if it's not specifically about fascism, it will zoom in on some of those elements. This episode ignores anything about that. And the Dalek... It's one of the things that is really damning about this episode is that the Dalek, while it is inherently a cooler monster because of the design and the voice, you know, Nicholas Briggs is back and he is great as always playing the Dalek voice, and all that stuff is great, so the Dalek is inherently more interesting on that spectrum. But anything else about this Dalek, it might as well be Tim Shaw, and nothing else would change. Like, nothing in the narrative depends on this being a Dalek. All it needs is a monster that can kill a lot of people, and that's it. That's all it needs.
Absolutely, because the entire idea... I mean, it's the exact same way Chris Chibnall writes all villains on Doctor Who, which is he's always looking for something that can be waved away really easily at the end of the episode, which means anything that points towards a larger systemic issue, like a proper Dalek threat would, you can't do in this version of Doctor Who. Like, the actual Daleks are incompatible with his vision of Doctor Who, because all those things you talked about are the things that the Doctor has consistently ignored throughout season 11 of Doctor Who. Like, this Doctor does not care about those issues. And so when you get that here, and the Dalek is just, I would say it's the most surface level understanding of the Dalek, but it's not even that, because the most surface level understanding of the Dalek would get some of those things you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because that is the surface with the Daleks a lot of the time. And you can go deeper than that, but usually you have to start from that place, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the most generic, just brain dead version of the Daleks. Anyone, by the way, comparing this to the Robert Shearman Dalek story from season 1, go fuck yourself. Just because this is also a story with one Dalek does not mean it is the same in any way. That is a story that is exactly about all the things Sean just talked about, and also has, like, interiority for the Doctor and things like that. Nothing of that is in this episode.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's really, you know, it felt inevitable at some point because how they answered this question that we were asking at the end of the last season when we knew, or like, I don't think we knew for sure yet, but it was like, there'll probably be a Dalek. How even if it's not in the New Year special, eventually this version of the Doctor will encounter a Dalek. That is inevitable. And our question was like, how are they going to do that? How do they take this fucking like centrist nothing version of the Doctor and put her up against, the imago of fascism or whatever it is that you see the Daleks as being? And their answer to that is, well, we just make the Daleks nothing also. It's like, it's not a like, oh, this is gonna, they didn't end up going down the path of, oh, by having this like, infamous villain in Doctor Who that is like the arch enemy of Doctor Who and represents the opposite of all the values that the Doctor stands for, that would like start the Doctor or something and give her more of a moral identity or moral center. Instead, Chibnall just dragged the Dalek back down to her level of where we are at with the quality of the rest of Doctor Who. And in many ways, that's like the most depressing thing of all about this episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's talk about those things, because my initial reaction was, so you start the episode, it's got some, table setting. The probably best scene in the whole episode is with the two archaeologists doing their work and like flirting. Yeah. And I was like, man, these characters are not the Dr. Graham, Yaz, or Ryan, so I don't hate them yet. I don't hate their new, it's not the best romantic conversation I've ever heard, but it's totally fine. This is charming. I'd watch these two. Please, don't go back to the Doctor. I don't want to see them anymore. They're terrible. And then we stopped with the two lovebirds, and then we go back, and it was just nails on a fucking chalkboard as the Doctor is, just breathlessly talking about, like, we've done 20 New Year's days, and here, let's do some name checks of all the people I know, because that's my only character trait, and then it's like, let's go around the room, and everyone say something that's vaguely connected to your sense of character that we haven't really established that well yet, except Graham, because you're the white guy, and then we did all that, and then it's like, Ryan's dad comes home, and everyone hates him, even though the dude seems fine. Maybe he was I guess he was a bad father, but nothing in this episode shows us that. They just tell us it, which is...
He tries to sell somebody a microwave oven. Clearly he's a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid anyone try to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. It's just about 10 minutes in, I realized, like, with a month off and not doing it every week, it just reinstilled for me how much I hate these characters.
Yeah.
Like, just nails on a chalkboard. I cannot stand them. I'm really, like, much more ready to declare that I think Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is a fucking terrible performance and Doctor now, even more than I was at the finale a couple weeks ago. Again, because we had that time away. And usually time away and you come back to the Doctor makes me love the Doctor more, because absence makes the heart grow fonder. In this case, it's the opposite. It's like, just shut up, go away, I don't want to hear any more of this. You have one note in this performance, which is you ran around a room 20 times before you started talking, and you are completely out of breath, even in scenes where, like the first scene of this episode is like she walks out of the TARDIS into the archaeology lair or wherever the fuck they are, and she's completely out of breath, and I'm like, why? Why? You were standing at the TARDIS control center. Why? Why are you out of breath? This makes no sense. I don't know if that is a performance choice by Jodie Whittaker or just the way she is written and directed, but the way it comes out is just, it is an awful one-note performance with nothing going on, and it's not the Doctor. It doesn't even at this point, like we had, like I remember in all the pre-release materials before this season, and even I think in a lot of The Woman Who Fell to Earth, you would look at Jodie Whittaker and be like, yeah, she really has it. Like, that feels like the Doctor. But it got, like, whittled down and down and down from that already very basic surface-level thing we had until now, like, it's an even simpler character than it was at the start. It's the exact opposite of most Doctors who, like, expand over the episodes. She has... Her portrayal and the writing has contracted to a point where there's just... I don't want to watch this character. It's obnoxious at this point.
I think a big part of it is just there's like, now it's you know, I bet if we went back and rewatched The Woman Who Fell to Earth, it would like, all of that stuff would so clearly be there. And like, you know, maybe if I went back and rewatched The Woman Who Fell to Earth, I'd be like, no, like maybe Resolution is actually better than that one. It is just, I haven't watched any of these episodes since they first aired. But like, yeah, I think part of it is just that sense of there's no potential. Like there's not this like mysterious, oh, we have the whole rest of the thing to watch, which is what those first couple of episodes had. And I think we were like pretty lenient on The Woman Who Fell to Earth and the Ghost Monument in retrospect, because it was like, this is like table setting. This is, you know, Chris Chibnall putting all the new pieces into place. Oftentimes, you know, like the second episode of a showrunner's run is usually pretty rough, you know. The Beast Below is one of the roughest, if maybe like not the weakest episode of season 5, depending on how you look at it. And so that stuff felt like, but there's all this potential. You can see that Jodie Whittaker has the potential to give a great performance as this character, but it becomes now painfully clear that like that potential probably is still there, but it is hard for me to even imagine it ever being explored. And a lot of that is Chris Chibnall, and some of it also just feels like Jodie Whittaker made some really poor choices on like the fundamental elements of how she's tackling the character. And part of it is, it feels like part of that breathlessness and like the sort of like the out of breath and the very loud, just like I'm kind of like yelling all of my lines a little bit. It feels now this like we're making all those jokes about her being like Miss Frizz from the Magic School Bus. Now 100% feels like she's performing a main character from a children's show, not from like a family show, and that this is a show for like watch any like an episode of Barney or Blue's Clues or something. The adult characters in all of those shout every single line they say, because that's how you get a little kid's attention, is you're like loud and cheerful and and that's like that's the tone of voice. Even that's her performance in all of this fucking season of Doctor Who.
Even though the rest, every other thing about this season of Doctor Who is trying to ape like prestige TV drama stuff that is not pitched at kids. Like, yeah, the kids who watch Magic School Bus really care about the aspect ratio and that you're shooting with anamorphic lenses, guys. No, I agree. I mean, that is the performance choice, and it's weird. And the Doctor has, and it's weird because you would say at the beginning, like, William Hartnell absolutely thought he was giving a performance for a children's show. It's a better performance than this.
Oh God! Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't even go without, that goes without saying. But it's like, yeah, it's even if you think you're pitching Doctor Who more at kids than at, you know, families or adults, it doesn't have to be this on one side simplistic and on the other side just completely tonally muddled. So I don't know. I feel like we're going in circles. Is there anything else new to say about this horrible, horrible incarnation of Doctor Who that comes up from this episode?
There's a couple things to go back briefly to the unit thing. That there are two scenes in this episode that feel like they were filmed from by a different crew at a different something totally different, and were just cut into this. And that is that scene where they bring up the unit stuff, and then there's that later just utterly bizarre scene where they cut away to some family when the Wi-Fi has gone down, and it's like, what the fuck shit? It felt like someone changed the channel to a different fucking program.
It did. It felt like a bad British sitcom without the laugh track.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it felt like there was space in that scene for a laugh track that didn't exist.
And it went on for, it should have been a cut of, if you wanted to do because that's the kind of thing that RTD would put sometimes into his episodes, but it would be a cutaway that lasted, 5 to 10 seconds. Not 3 minutes, which is what that was. But that scene is utterly inconsequential to the scope of, Doctor Who. It's just... I found it so baffling. It's so weird. I have no idea why that scene was not just fucking cut. But the unit one I found really interesting because, like you said, there's already this expectation built up in modern Doctor Who, even ignoring classic Who, about the role of unit, and particularly through the Peter Capaldi stuff that had gotten more and more prominent.
We had a character who is that the first time a character from modern Who has been named? Kate Stewart?
Yeah, Stewart, yeah.
I think that's the first time another character from Modern Who has been named on this season of Doctor Who.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right, yeah. I don't think they've ever, they had the one callback to, the bow tie, but that's, the closest callback, and it's not as other character thing. And then Kate Stewart is the only, I guess you would kind of Captain Jack Harkness, but he only had a couple of, very diffuse appearances. Kate Stewart is the only recurring, human character that's not one of a companion or anybody. It's just a total supporting character that would pop up 1 or 2 times every season or so since season 7. When she was introduced in a fucking Chris Chibnall episode, by the way, The Power of Three, which I assume that was probably a Stephen Moffat idea. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it must have been because I can't imagine that Chris Chibnall would just abandon that character if he came up with it. It just in such an offhanded manner because... as they do in this scene in this episode, because I am actually of the opinion that if you just don't want to address unit and you don't want you just want to be blank slate, nobody on contemporary Earth has any idea about aliens, alien invasions, it's totally new for them. I'm fine with that on Doctor Who. I don't give a shit. That continuity is so fucked and confused and nothing anyways. It's been reset 5 million times. At least season 5 gave the vague explanation of the crack in time. There's a one-off line late in that season, oh, that's why Amy doesn't know what the Daleks are. The crack in time changed the past or whatever. And I'm totally fine with them resetting the status quo. But there's one thing you need to do if you're doing that. You have to actually reset it, and you can't have this weird callback to unit because that's what creates the dissonance. If they had never mentioned unit, it would have never been a problem for me. I was not going to sit there and play why if the Daleks are invading Earth, what is UNIT doing? Because that's the same thing of well, then where the fuck is Torchwood? What is Sarah Jane's gang from Sarah Jane Adventures? What the fuck are they doing? Where's the 5 K9s that are left on Earth? What are they up to?
I agree with this, and I think it's because when I had my spiel on it earlier, again, it's not something that normally bothers me. I think you're right. It probably is the UNIT thing that made me think about it. Is well, wait, you are acknowledging continuity while not following continuity. Pick one or the other. I agree. I don't, if timelines and stuff change on Doctor Who, I always just assume the Doctor's a fucking time traveler, things are going to be out of whack. Yeah. Whatever, that's fine. But
and then it's eventually, if you have to have all the contemporary Earth stories where alien shit happens all be canonical, eventually, at some point, it's just, how is anybody even living on Earth at this point? It'd be such this dystopic hell of, we've been invaded by aliens a million times. You have to just sort of ignore it at a certain point.
I don't know, but what do you think about the choice to just say UNIT is dead? Fuck it.
It's terrible. It makes no sense. It's I just don't. It's going to be something that as soon as another showrunner comes in, it'll be reversed. Maybe not by the next showrunner, but at some point in the future of Doctor Who, it'll just be oh, that was a dumb, because it was basically framed as a Brexit joke, and it's because they lost their funding, and it's just this doesn't. What? Why even have this fucking scene in here? It's so pointless.
Yeah, because there are plenty of alien invasion stories where the UNIT is not involved and the Doctor is not worried about it. Usually, one of the things that's weird is that's maybe the first time I can remember the Doctor seeking out UNIT and not UNIT seeking out the Doctor.
Exactly. It's not for example, the season 8 episode, The Caretaker, which is contemporary Earth episode, the Skovox Blitzer or whatever that fuck the robot is that attacks in that episode, an alien invasion of Earth. And the doctor goes and takes care of it. And that's the whole episode. Never once is the doctor standing around being like, you know what? I should really go call Kate Stewart and bring those unit people in. Because, like, honestly, the doctor usually is not trying to get units help. He's trying to avoid having units help because they tend to come in and shoot shit.
Yes. So, I don't get it. I mean, you know, let me back up a second. It makes complete and total sense that this doctor would defer to the bureaucracy rather than take initiative. So, there you go. True. Yeah. That actually is the most in-character thing this Doctor has ever done. Yeah, I don't know. This season of Doctor Who has had such a schizophrenic relationship with, like, Doctor Who iconography where it seems to really detest it on a lot of levels. Like, this episode and the premiere just don't use the theme song. You know?
Yes,
like, we're going to ignore the theme song. We're going to ignore, like, the cold open. Like, a lot of those, like very surface level things that don't matter much, but they do signal certain things. Just gone. We're not going to worry about them. Unit, like, we're going to make fun of it more than we're going to actually include it. Just get rid of Unit. But at the same time, like, the Doctor is going to have the sonic screwdriver activated in her hand at every single moment of her performance. Yeah. And it is a magic wand now, and it can do anything. You know, we still have the TARDIS, even though the interior feels like it was designed by someone who hates Doctor Who.
Because we get more of that set in this episode than, like, I think all that last season combined. And that set is fucking terrible. It's so bad.
I wrote about this on Twitter. It's got exactly 2 colors, orange and blue. It looks like it was designed by a fucking Denver Broncos fan. And it is so cramped. The lighting is so bad. There's nothing they can do with it. Like, forget TARDIS, Doctor Who, any affection you have for that. It is bad production design because the crew cannot do anything in it. Yeah. Like, it is just a bad film set. And that is really visible in this episode. Where, if you notice, they did actually have to pump up the lighting in there because they had so many scenes. And it looks even gaudier. Like, there were new lights on the floor that are not in the rest of Season 11 because they had to have them. They just
because there was more than 1 minute of footage shot on the fucking set this time.
It's so bad. Yeah, I don't know. So its whole relationship, like, I don't know if the people making it even, like, have affection for Doctor Who, because sometimes they'll do things like, you know, the sonic screwdriver is, when it comes in, it's like it's a very loving moment of, like, this is a cool piece of Doctor Who iconography. Same with, like, when they at least introduce the TARDIS. But then they'll do a lot of stuff with other pieces of Doctor Who iconography where it's just, like, dismissive, or we're going to ignore it altogether, or there is no past, and it's just like, I don't quite get it. So I really can't tell what the relationship is there. I don't know. I'm glad I watched this just to put a capper on this season for myself, and, like, I don't have to be curious anymore until there are more episodes. Because this would have been, like, lingering in the back of my head of, like, but there is an episode with a Dalek, and I should probably see that. Oh, we didn't talk about the dad.
Oh, yes, yeah. We need, because that is nominally what it feels like the episode is supposed to be about. And you have basically 2 scenes with him before he just gets wrapped up in, like, the gobbledygook of the ending of the episode. You have the one with Ryan in the cafe. You have the one with Graham. The one with Graham is, of course, better.
You have 3 because there are 2 scenes with Graham. There's a scene with Graham before they go to the cafe. There's the cafe, then more with Graham. Because, yes, even though Chris Chibnall is writing a story about a young black man and his absent father, it really has to be about the middle-aged white guy. That is the most Chris Chibnall thing ever. He is so fucking bad at diversity. I think that's a weird thing to call someone bad at, but he is bad at diversity.
Yes, because it's like, because I had totally forgotten there is that little, like, moment sandwiched in right before
where
Ryan
he's telling him how to be a dad. He's like, hey, listen up. I'm going to dad-splain you about how to be a dad. And it's like, fuck you, Graham. You're not his actual grandpa. Quit calling yourself that. It's weird. It's really weird. Like, that's not how any step-parent relationship works.
It's certainly not a step-grandparent relationship that lasted for, like, 6 months.
I shouldn't say never. Like, if your parents or grandparents or whatever got married when you were a little kid, that's fine. But when you're a fucking adult, it's fucking weird, the whole thing. We've talked about it before. He's been in Ryan's life for, like, a year, tops. And he's given this dad... I don't care what he knows or doesn't about Ryan's dad. He has no business talking to that man that way.
Yeah.
It's, like, deeply disrespectful. And also, again, you know, maybe Ryan's dad was bad, maybe he wasn't. All we have in this episode is this guy who seems a little down on his luck, but otherwise a functional human being, and Ryan and the other characters talking about how he was a bad dad, but we never see that. So to us, he's just a guy.
Yeah, because you have the one scene that he and his son actually have to talk to each other in this hour-long fucking episode. There is plenty of room. You can cut out the fucking Wi-Fi scene. You can cut out the unit scene and nothing would be lost. And you'd have a solid, 6 to 8 minutes that you could spend developing the relationship between one of your main characters and his absent father that was a recurring subject of conversation for the first half of the last season that, randomly just disappeared about halfway through. I guess it came up and it takes you away, but other than that, they basically forgot about it in the last 5 episodes. But yeah, you have that one scene, and that one scene is so bizarre because it is just this it's just this moment where Ryan and his dad are talking, and it just, you come away feeling like, what is the actual conflict here? Because the dad is so forthcoming and so just I love you, and I've made all these mistakes, and I'm going to make it all up to you. And Ryan's like, well, you have to do better. It's like, I'm going to do better. And you have to do better. I'm going to do everything you tell me. I'm going to be great at it. I'm going to be awesome. And that's how that conversation ends. And it feels more like they had, the actors accidentally read out, the part in the script that was, setting up the character backstory for the actor. That's this is Ryan's relationship with his father. He hasn't seen him for blah, 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 blah. And then Ryan says, Ryan's dad has been sailing and doing all this, and now he's selling his microwave oven, and he's realized all his mistakes, but he can't bring himself, because of, toxic masculinity or whatever, he can't bring himself to love his son. But they forgot, all the parts that actually create the conflict, I can't bring myself to say all these things to my son. And he's just saying all the hidden feelings locked deep inside this character's heart. And it just feels like, where is the actual conflict between these two characters? Then those two characters don't talk again for basically the whole rest of the fucking episode. And then at the very end, the Dalek monster thing, the Dalek, the mutant that lives inside the casing, takes control of Ryan's dad, and then Ryan's dad is the one that's Ryan is the one that's, I have to reach out and save you, father, and I love you, dad. And it's such a bizarre misunderstanding of what the conflict was even supposed to be, even if they didn't set it up right, which is Ryan doesn't have any problem opening up to and saying he loves his dad. The problem is that the dad is the one that needs to reach out to Ryan. Ryan is the one who should have been fucking possessed, and the dad is the one who has to get over his issues and say, despite all these risks, despite him being this presumably this cowardly father is how he's presented as he had all this stress and all these things that he couldn't face up to and fight, and so he abandoned his son. He couldn't have deal with the emotional reality of showing up to his mother's Grace's funeral, and so he wasn't there. That's what the conflict is supposed to be. The resolution this episode should have been the dad being in a situation where it had been potentially a great sacrifice or a great stress for him to try to save his son, and he has to get past those issues and reach out and save Ryan. Instead, they have Ryan reaching out to save his dad, which is something that character would have had no problem doing at the beginning of The Woman Who Fell to Earth, let alone at any point in this episode. The journey, the emotional character arc is so completely misunderstood and neutered, it is utterly bizarre. But of course, it's Chris Chibnall, and that's how every single episode he's written has been so far. But it's here also, and it's fucking obnoxious.
Yes to all of that. 2 final things, both about how the doctor treats Ryan's dad.
Yeah.
I have 2 thoughts. All right. First is that the dad brings the microwave oven aboard. How is the joke not that the doctor buys the microwave oven and for the TARDIS? I thought that's what they were doing because I still have a modicum of hope in my heart that they know how to write the doctor, and what it should have been is the doctor's I totally want a microwave oven for my TARDIS, and she buys it, and the dad is happy, and Ryan and his dad have this moment where the dad's see, I can be successful because the doctor buys the microwave oven. That's the joke. Yeah. That is so obviously the joke. I don't even know where to go with that. Second is the doctor's a fucking dick to Ryan's dad.
Yeah.
There's that whole moment where Ryan's dad is working really hard to jerry-rig this microwave oven to, defeat the Dalek, and she's like, well, this helps make up for you being a derelict parent. And I'm like, fuck you, what are you doing? You have no right to talk to him like that.
I fucking watched the Dalek invasion of Earth, you fucking lunatic. You're the one that just left your goddamn granddaughter alone on this fucking destroyed Earth to, go marry some prick human. You have no right fucking talking, doctor. Someday you'll be back my ass. It's been 50 fucking years.
Also, I guess third thing, is there a moment where they imply that the doctor has an absentee father in this?
Yes, that's one of those lines that I choose to ignore, the doctor being half human from the TV movie. Because it's just, there's this, dad, stuff with dads are complicated, or so I've heard. It's Why put that line in there? What does that mean? What is it supposed to imply?
Again, like, they have had so many lines dropping hints about, like, the Doctor's sordid family history this season. Nothing has come of any of it. At this point, I don't think they're there to set up anything. But it's just so weird that they're there.
Well, I mean, this is one of the great, sort of Schadenfreude type pleasures I got from this episode was... this was one of the most detailed fan theories about the return of Susan I've seen in a long time was about this episode. And not in a way that, like, if you go back to where we did before Heaven Sent and Hell Bent in season 9, we had an episode where I talked about my, like, fan theory about, like, oh, it could be setting up a Susan thing. But I laid it out there of, like, that's probably not going to happen. It's just a cool idea I had. I saw so many, like, 100% earnest fan theories of, like, it's setting up all this stuff, and it's so clearly, like, of course this is why, in all these other Chris Chibnall episodes, like The Woman Fell to Earth, there's all these strange references to, like, the Doctor's family that go nowhere and are confusing and non sequiturs and mean nothing. Of course, like, the thematic material of season 11 has all been about family. Obviously, of course, Susan has to come back, and it's just this... dark pleasure Schadenfreude I get of just saying, like, no, it's all... of course it's not. Of course Susan's not coming back, you fucking idiots, because that thematic material you saw was all coincidence, because Chris Chibnall has no idea what a fucking theme is, let alone how to write it very clearly, because he's failed to put one in the, like, 8 fucking episodes he's written for this fucking show. He's never put one in there. And so he's not putting one in here now to try to bring Susan back, and all of it's just this bizarre coincidence. And it's not, Susan's never coming back. It's never going to be about Susan. Susan's not the goddamn timeless child from the Ghost Monument bullshit. It's none of that. We have to let it go, and we have to move on, because it's terrible. Doctor Who is really bad right now, and it's upsetting. But we can't cling to Susan to try to save us.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on, Sean. We talked about that for much, much longer than I thought we would, but that's how it goes.
I knew we would talk about it longer than you thought we would, so
all right.
I was fine with it.
That's fine. I saw Aquaman last night.
How was Aquaman, Jonathan?
It was fucking awesome, and I'm really happy I get to say that, because, we've been burned by the DC movies many times.
Yes.
There's the one good one, Wonder Woman, right?
Yes.
And, maybe you and I disagree a little bit to the extent of how good it is, but we both agree, good movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
And very definitely much better than the other DC crap. But, Batman v Superman and fucking Suicide Squad and goddamn Justice League, just the worst dreck, right? And, now we have the Aquaman. This is the first one where they're really trying to, like, break out the characters from Justice League, right? Because Wonder Woman, her movie was before Justice League. So now they're kind of, they still, I don't know what the hell is going on with that Flash movie, but they did get the Aquaman movie made. And I think you and I both in Justice League thought, like, Jason Momoa seems like good casting, but he had nothing to play in Justice League.
Yeah.
Kind of like, okay, there's potential here, but it's not realized in this movie.
Which would be the same thing we would have said about Gal Gadot before that Wonder Woman movie actually came out.
I think we said that in Batman v Superman.
Yeah, if that Wonder Woman movie was post-Justice League, we would be saying it's like, oh, there's maybe something there, but goddamn does this movie not give any room for performance.
And then, we had that of, like, Aquaman has been in these movies before, but they didn't do anything with him. Combine that with two primary things, I think, which is that the DC movies are bad, and that Aquaman is the hardest character they've had to do on film, right?
Yes.
Like, of all the modern superheroes, like, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, all that stuff, fucking child's play next to Aquaman, right?
Yeah, I think Ant-Man is the only competitor, but Ant-Man also has some, like, really good source material to pull from that Aquaman has less.
Also, while Ant-Man has a significant special effects hurdle, it's nowhere near the special effects hurdle of doing a movie underwater.
Yeah, and also just the special effects hurdle of you can become really small, you can become really big is really cool. The effects hurdle of everything is underwater I just always find that kind of lame.
Yeah, so you have a big uphill climb. I didn't really get any... The trailers didn't look bad or good to me. They just kind of were there. I didn't know what to make of them. The movie came out. It got really enthusiastic reviews from some corners. It was kind of dismissed from other corners. So this whole time I've had no idea what to think about Aquaman.
Yes.
You're probably in the same boat.
100%, yeah.
And so I finally was like, fuck it. Again, I have not been out of the house in 4 or 5 days. I've got this shitty Doctor Who episode sitting on my computer. At the very least, if Aquaman is bad, it's going to be interestingly bad. Like, because it's an Aquaman movie, right?
Yes, yeah.
It has to be. So I went to see it, and I am so glad I did, because it's what it needs to be. It is This movie is dumb as a fucking rock, and it loves it. And that's what it needs to be. Like, it is a deeply, profoundly silly movie, and it is not ever once trying to apologize for that silliness. It is completely earnest in that silliness. It is, like, honestly, a good, I think, way to compare this would be to almost something like Flash Gordon, or even like a Conan the Barbarian or something, which, where you take, like, I mean, Conan the Barbarian, the movie, is much more serious.
Yeah.
But it also has a lot of silly stuff in it that what they do, why does it work? They just go with it. They don't make apologies for it. They don't do it postmodern in any kind of postmodern way. They don't wink and nod to it. They're just like, let's just fucking do it. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger here. Let's do Conan the Barbarian. Or with Flash Gordon, we're gonna fucking do it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what they do with Aquaman. They, full on, the villain in this movie is Patrick Wilson as King Orm, who wants to collect the 5 kingdoms of the sea because he wants to become the Ocean Master. And they say Ocean Master over and over. And he puts on a fucking helmet with goggles, and he's got a purple leotard on, and he says, don't call me king, call me Ocean Master. And I'm just so on board because they are so clearly having fun with it. Early in the movie, Jason Momoa calls himself Aquaman. Other people call him Aquaman. The last line of this movie is he says, I'm Aquaman. Like, they don't, and that's actually the first time in the DC movies, if you'll notice, they have never called the characters by their hero names.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's Superman was never called Superman. He was called the Super Space Man in a newspaper article once. Batman was always called the Bat of Gotham. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And Wonder Woman has never been called Wonder Woman in the Gal Gadot portrayal in the universe. In the title, yes, but not in the movies. Here it's just like, no, I'm Aquaman, and we're gonna do Ocean Master, and we're gonna do the Kingdom of the Trench, and the Kingdom of the Fishermen, and the Kingdom of, and all this crazy shit. And that alone, like, one of the thoughts I had about 10 minutes into this movie, because the first 10 minutes are like the backstory, where it's Aquaman narrating to us about how his mother was the queen of Atlantis, and his father was a lighthouse keeper, and she comes to land, and they fall in love, and it is all so goofy and earnest. And I realized about 10 minutes in, what this movie is Batman and Robin with a command of its own tone. And I mean that 100% as a compliment, because my unusual opinion on Batman and Robin is that if you put that movie 30 degrees to the left or right with more command of its tone, I think that's a good Batman movie. Like, if you had Jason Momoa playing Bruce Wayne in that movie, that would be a much better Batman movie. The problem is George Clooney doesn't know how to play camp. The problem is whoever plays Robin doesn't know how to play camp. The problem is not that the movie is campy, it's that it doesn't know how to execute on its own camp. This is a movie that knows how to execute on its own camp. And that is really, really important. Like, it has, I think, the director who knows how to do it. It's got a script that is, I think, rough on a plot level, and we can get into that. But I think it has the right sense of dialogue and stuff. Like, oh my God, Sean, there's a character in this, the guy who becomes Black Manta, basically.
Cool.
And Black Manta is, I don't know anything about that character other than the name, really, but the character is in this, and it's very fun. And the first scene of the movie proper after the prologue is Aquaman is, like, saving this submarine from pirates who are invading it. And the pirates are these two guys, a father and a son. And Aquaman, fights them all off, and then the father gets crushed under, like, I think it's like a torpedo or something on the submarine, and the son is trying to save his father, and Aquaman is like, no, the sea will choose your mercy, or something like that, and leaves. And it's an interesting, at first I was like, oh no, is DC going like murder dark again? But no, Aquaman later has a conversation with Mira where he's like, I feel really bad that I did that, and I think I might have created something worse, and I need to be a better, merciful person from here on out. I'm like, you did a character arc! You did it, DC! You did it! But anyway, so Aquaman lets this guy die, basically. And the other guy is really mad, and now he wants to kill Aquaman, and that's how he becomes Black Manta. I mean, there's more stuff to it than that, but, that's his motivation for becoming Black Manta. But while the father is dying, there is a line, I shit you not, this line is in the movie, Sean, where the father grips his son and says, son, you need to live so you can go kill that son of a bitch.
That's, it's a compelling, most times it's just a total assumption on the part of the aggrieved party that they need to go on a quest of vengeance because the object of the, killing in question is already dead by the time it happens. I like that it's like, no, like, this is like a very specific, I want you to avenge me. usually they don't say that. Usually it's all they're already dead, or they're like live son or whatever, trying to live a good life. He's like, I'm going to go kill those bastards anyways. I like this. Like, no, just go fucking.
And I love, and it's not even avenge me. It's go kill that son of a bitch. It's like. There's not even an attempt at subtext in this movie. It is all on the surface, and that's how it should be, because I think probably the best version of Aquaman is the full-on pulp version.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing here. This is 100% pulp storytelling. It is on that wavelength, beginning to end. It has... I think, again, there are some things where, I think the 3-act structure, if you wanted to criticize, it goes in fits and starts a little too much to me. But the tone is in 100% command, this whole movie. And this is actually, that is one criticism I would have of Wonder Woman, which I really liked. I don't think its tone is in 100% command of itself the whole way through. This movie it knows its fucking tone and it sticks to it. It is pulp. It's also sincere pulp, though. Like Aquaman is a character we are meant to care about. Mira is a character we are meant to care about. Like Aquaman coming into his own as choosing to be I'm going to be the king of Atlantis and I'm going to be proactive about this. That hits because there's a lot of heart to it and sincerity, and that really matters. But also it is this silly pulp movie that operates on that surface layer really, really well. And beyond all of that, though, good God, this movie is gorgeous. It made me think actively over and over about the Star Wars prequels. And when you and I talked about those on the podcast last year, one of the things we said is, going back to these, we were surprised that not only did they not look dated to us, some elements, Jar Jar looks a little dated.
Yeah.
But overall, we thought, these don't look dated. These look fucking cool because no one else has used CGI like this to just build new fucking worlds, Naboo doesn't look like they went out and shot in Paris or something and added some CGI domes. It looks like they made a new world.
Yeah.
Same with Geonosis or Mustafar or things like that. In Aquaman, it's the same thing. There's a scene set in Sicily, Italy. But other than that, it looks like they just made new worlds out of CGI and put people into them. And it is the most impressive feat of all digital world building I've seen since the Star Wars prequels. The stuff underwater is so cool. Atlantis and the other kingdoms look so amazing. When they do the big battle scenes, there are just so many fish and whales and all these different crazy aquatic creatures on screen. It is genuinely mind-boggling how they pulled it off. There's a sense of scale to this movie that is amazing. There's a scene where they're going through, Aquaman and Mira have to go through this dark trench, and there's all these monsters chasing them. And Aquaman has a flare that he's using because the monsters won't come towards the light. And so the whole scene, it looks like a cool indie video game where you're you are the character with the light having to move through. And just the sense of scale and framing and color is so awesome. And it's just continually taking you to new places that are really cool to see. And the costumes are so fucking goofy, but I love them. Aquaman ends this movie with the full-on green and gold costume.
Nice.
They do not... This movie is the least embarrassed of its source material I've ever seen a comic book movie be. And there are plenty of comic book movies that are totally embracing of their source material, but their source material isn't Aquaman.
It's a good point, yeah.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, not at all embarrassed, but its source material is Spider-Man. Everyone likes Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Spider-Man is cool. No one thinks Aquaman is cool. But this movie is but we like Aquaman, and you're going to like him too, because we like him that much. And I just love how sincere it is, and big-hearted, and goofy, and, again, it does not do the kind of thing where, Justice League, in its reshoots, I guess, put in a bunch of jokes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you would call them jokes. They're not funny, they don't elicit a laugh, but they are what we would look in the dictionary and say that is a joke.
Yes, they try to fulfill a certain quota of comic relief.
Yes. But all of those jokes, the premise of it is, you cheap fucking nerds coming to see this comic book movie, right?
Yeah.
It's the joke is always, this is lame. You are lame for watching it. You are lame for liking it. These characters are lame because they're wearing a costume or something. That's the joke in all of that. And that's why Justice League feels so outdated in that regard. Because that's not the jokes in Thor Ragnarok are not Thor is stupid. It is Thor is stupid, but it's not Thor the property is stupid and you shouldn't like it.
It's that Thor the character is a big dumbo, but you gotta love him.
Yes.
He's a hunk.
And that's what Aquaman is. Aquaman has zero postmodern winking jokes about how there's not a moment where someone says, "Oh, you're the Aquaman," and he goes, "Oh, that's a dumb name." They don't do that ever in this movie. And you combine that, I think, with the really amazing just production design and visuals and direction and, the music. The music in this movie is so good. It's got a lot of like synth and rock guitar, and it's exactly what you want for this movie. It's really great. It moves at a good clip. Like, it's 2 hours, 20 minutes long, but I thought it used its length well because it's just got so much world building to do. I really, really liked it, and I'm really glad I liked it. Jason Momoa is a great Aquaman, and, I've been following Jason Momoa as long as everyone else has been, which is since season 1 of Game of Thrones, where he had this amazing breakout role as Khal Drogo, and then it's clear Hollywood has kept trying to do things with him, including a remake of Conan the Barbarian. Yeah. And none of them have landed, and finally we have one that lands because I think they understand he is this, like, pulp action star in that kind of sense. He is so literally larger than life. You've got to give him that, and he's really good at it. Amber Heard is really good as Mira. You got fucking Willem Dafoe in here as Volko. That's really cool.
I didn't know that he was in this movie.
He's great, yeah. You got Patrick Wilson in there. Doing his, like, Patrick Wilson in goofy superhero costumes is one of my favorite things because he also was great in the goofy costumes in Watchmen as Night Owl, and he's good here as well. Nicole Kidman plays Aquaman's mother, and she's really good. I like having her there. She gets a really goofy costume near the end, and it's so good. Everyone should go see Aquaman. It's so fun. It's dumb Black Panther. Like, its plot, it is, because it is about him trying to go take the throne, basically. Right. So it's all about, like, the court intrigue of a big society we didn't previously know existed. So it is like dumb Black Panther, but it knows that's what it is, and it has so much fun. And I love that we can have a superhero genre that in 1 year can give us Black Panther and Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp and Aquaman and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's really cool to me.
Yeah.
Those are all very different, and Aquaman is one of my favorites of those. And I said this to Thomas last night, man, if Wonder Woman had been the first DCU movie, and then this had been the second, we would all be on cloud nine about it. We'd be like, this is such a promising thing. And instead, where we're at is they're still digging out of the hole, but they're digging out of the hole pretty well. If they've made these two and they can keep doing this, that's good. Like, take these two characters, erase everything else from existence, and I want more of this. So there you go.
How much of this do you think is just like, Wonder Woman and Aquaman as properties do not have the kind of attention to them as Superman and Batman do, so WB is like, does it feel like WB's just not paying attention to these movies? Well, I think so they get to be good?
I think that's part of it, because it's not that they're not, I mean, clearly these movies had a lot of resources behind them. They're big budget, they're well produced. I think it's as simple as they got to the point with these that Marvel got to with their movies 10 years ago, which is, what is the formula? Is you find a talented filmmaker who also genuinely likes the material.
Yeah.
If you have those two things, everything falls into place. But Zack Snyder, who I think probably is a talented filmmaker, hates Superman.
Yes.
I don't know what he thinks about Batman, but he doesn't really seem to like the Batman I like. And so it just doesn't mesh well. You got Suicide Squad, David Ayer, not a talented filmmaker, also seems to hate the material. That's why that's the worst one. Like, Justice League, also Zack Snyder, but also Joss Whedon, who I don't think really likes those particular characters. Maybe he likes some of the other ones.
And I think he was tired of it regardless, even if he did like them.
Yeah. So that's it to me, is that, like, part of why Aquaman got made when all these other ones have been canceled is that they hired James Wan early. James Wan is a tremendously talented guy. He did the first Saw, he did the Conjuring movies, he did the Insidious movies, he did Fast and Furious 7. He's really talented. He really likes Aquaman, and he fought to get this fucking movie made once they hired him, because I think there's definitely a version of this where if it had been a different filmmaker who hadn't fought for it, it would have fallen by the wayside the way the Flash movie did. Yeah. And I think it's just they had the right guy in there. Like, Wonder Woman almost did. Patty Jenkins was not the first person hired for that. It was Michelle McLaren, and she wanted to do the thing with the tiger, and they wouldn't let her do the thing with the tiger. So if anything, Aquaman, they were more willing to just let them go anywhere. And I hope what they learned from this and Wonder Woman is, you swing for the fences with something crazy, people will pay attention. Because that's the big story, is Aquaman looks like it's going to hit $1 billion. That's the first movie in the DCU to do that. Mm-hmm. The last Warner Brothers movie to do that was Dark Knight Rises. So, yeah, fucking Aquaman is going to make $1 billion, Sean.
Like, Aquaman has already outgrossed Justice League, which is so hilarious.
It's so hilarious.
Fucking Aquaman.
So yeah, I mean, I hope it just shows Warner Brothers the virtue of doing it the right way, which is you find someone who likes the material and let them do what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
There is exactly one Justice League reference in this movie. That's it.
So this takes place after Justice League?
Yep, and the one reference is Mira says, he's like, I don't want to help save the world, I don't want to help save Atlantis, and she's like, oh, but you helped defeat Steppenwolf, and he's like, that was different. That's it. That's the only reference. So there you go. And honestly, I wish they would have cut it. It is actively distracting because nobody in the audience saw Justice League.
Yes, I mean, and everyone was there just like, even the people who did see Justice League, like, Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf? Oh, wait. Is that? No, that was Thanos. He was in the Marvel movies. That's not Steppenwolf.
Yes. So anyway, Aquaman's good. You should see it, Sean. You'd like it.
I probably will not see it in the theaters, but I will get around to it at some point. I'm sure.
It's really worth it. It's a blast. It's big, dumb fun. Emphasis on the dumb, and I like that because it's Aquaman. I didn't need a treatise on human existence. You know, I'm really glad Aquaman doesn't like go up to King Orm and be like, "Do you bleed underwater? What happens to the blood?" That'd be kind of weird, wouldn't it? Anyway, all right. So that's Aquaman. You want to talk about something else that's really fun, Sean?
What else is fun, Jonathan?
Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball.
Yes.
Super.
All right. So I think we should so we're going to do our big Dragon Ball Super discussion here. So if you don't watch Dragon Ball, bye. We'll see you next week where we're all talking about Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And the week after that. Anyway, yeah. So let's start before we talk about this series. Let's set a baseline because we haven't done a big Dragon Ball discussion about our fandom with Dragon Ball. I mean, we've both been watching it our whole lives.
Yes.
So we don't need to do the whole, how did you get into it story.
Because I don't know.
Yeah. I can tell the story of I do remember that I had seen it on TV dubbed and it kind of bounced off of me while it was big with everyone else. And what got me into it was when I was reading American Shonen Jump. When that was still a thing it was a monthly magazine, and they were publishing Dragon Balls. What they would do is, because Dragon Ball Z is so long and had been long over at that point, because this was 2004, I think was the year I super got into it, and they would do 4 or 5 chapters a month in Jump. And I remember the first chapter I read, which is the chapter where Gohan and Goku come out of the Room of Spirit and Time in the Cell arc. And I remember because that full-page panel of them walking out with their gi all busted up and stuff is just seared in my memory. I remember that we were on our trip to Canada, which was an annual trip. So this would actually have been 2003 because it was my second year in Canada. And I remember the hotel room I was in reading this. That was also the issue that had the chapters of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they do the cool tabletop RPG with evil Bakura. Mm-hmm. That's the best part of Yu-Gi-Oh! So one of the best parts of Dragon Ball, one of the best parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I got into it through the manga, which not many people in America can probably say. For whatever reason, the anime just initially bounced off me, and then I got into it after that. And I read Dragon Ball completely out of order. You probably watched it completely out of order.
Yes, yeah.
Because that's how we all did it back in the day. It was so long. It was, original Dragon Ball was actually hard to see for a while because it wasn't on TV, the normal. I mean, it was at some point, but not as much as Z was.
It was a long time until I had seen the Piccolo stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, so we got into it at a young age. We can just say that. We both love it a lot. I think, but as a good baseline for where our tastes are in this, because Dragon Ball is a big fucking series with lots of ups and downs and different, arcs that I think appeal to different people. I thought we should just talk about what are our favorite parts of the series before we get to Super. Because I think that helps define what our tastes are going into it. For me, it's in the Z portion of the series. I think the Android stuff is the best arc, the Android Cell stuff, and part of that is just that's the first thing I was into.
Yeah.
But, I rewatched it, I think, last year in the anime, and I do think it is the just most consistently, in terms of a long arc, it is one of the most consistently well-plotted, well-written, character-driven, but also very twisty in the best ways. It's really great, although I also fucking love the Saiyan arc, which is just, it's much shorter, but it's kind of perfect. And then in the Dragon Ball portion of it, I like all of the Dragon Ball portion. There's no down part there for me, but the 3 Tenkaichi tournaments are probably my favorite landmarks there, and specifically the 23rd Budokai, where you have Piccolo Jr. is probably my favorite stretch in terms of fighting. I think the fight between Piccolo Jr. and Goku is the best fight in the series. So those are always my high water points for the series. What about you?
I mean, mine is not really that different.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, just to give a little bit of context of where I came from, because you started more with the manga stuff. I started with Dragon Ball Z on Toonami when I was a kid, like before I can remember when I would have watched it, and that's how I got into it, obviously with like the English dub and all that stuff. And then eventually, then it just said watch it out of order. Eventually, Dragon Ball starts coming on, and trying to watch the English dub of Dragon Ball. Then eventually get into, and then like periodically trying to sort of watch Japanese Dragon Ball, but could never quite get into it because I think that transition, of like just jumping into like having watched only the dub for my whole life and trying to jump into Masako Nozawa as adult Goku is really difficult because it's such a different performance and it's very hard to get past the kind of gender thing when you're just trying to make that like transition when you've lived with Sean Chamel as being Goku for your whole life. So then when I was learning Japanese, that's when I did the fucking like, fuck it, I want to do this. And I started watching Dragon Ball, original Dragon Ball, and watched it all the way through in Japanese. And that makes that transition completely seamless, and it's not a problem. Because obviously Masako Nozawa as Kid Goku, no one could ever have a problem with that. It's like that, trying to like get the childish kind of voice in adult Goku is the transition.
And especially in the early dubs, there was never really any effort to try to imitate what she did with the role. Sean Schemmel clearly does that more now. Like, he tries to make himself sound more youthful. I still think he's, to me, fundamentally miscast in that part. But, like, you can tell, like, why, if that's what you grew up with, it's not even an attempt to do that voice. Whereas some of them are more of that, but that one is not. It's a really clean break. So I get what you mean there.
Yeah. So then now I'm Japanese Dragon Ball all the time. Like, I've seen all of it that way, except for like half of GT, because I got except for half of GT and like everything except for maybe like the first 2 episodes of the Garlic Junior Saga, because those fucking suck really bad. But yeah, so that's sort of my baseline of how I have come to the series, and then I have read the manga only in Japanese. But we talked about that on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. So then for my favorite Dragon Ball stuff, the 3 tournament arcs definitely are way up there. The beginning of Buu, which I know there's also a soft spot for you, like the Great Saiyaman and the sort of tournament stuff around that before it all gets all booed up. Like, I like all of it, but
everything up to the point where Majin Buu appears, I think, is great.
Yeah.
And I think after Majin Buu appears, it's sporadically great. But it's also sporadically overlong and annoying.
Yes, yeah. I also have, like, way more for the manga than the anime, because I think this is, infamously where the anime, like, the filler stuff gets way out of control. But the stretch for Z of, like, basically the beginning of what the anime calls Dragon Ball Z to Goku defeating Frieza, that is, like, in my heart of hearts, that is my favorite stretch of Dragon Ball, because that is, and especially, like, I have just read it through again on the manga, and it's, in the manga, it doesn't have the same kind of pacing problems the anime does. Like, the Frieza stuff still goes on a little bit longer than it needs to, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
That starts with, the, like, Vegeta and Krillin and Gohan fighting Form 1 Frieza all the way through Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. The Goku shows up. There's a long section. Like, base Goku fights level 4 Frieza for longer than he fights fucking Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga. And then it's Super Saiyan. So it's like, that definitely goes on for a little bit too long. But in terms of, like, core Dragon Ball Z stuff, there's something about the escalation from original Dragon Ball that tracks so well for me from, here's Goku and Piccolo fighting Raditz, and they are at, like, the level that they were at in that last tournament, and Raditz is fucking blowing up mountains with, like, ki blasts that they, like, barely dodge or blows off Piccolo's arms. And then Nappa and Vegeta show up, and they're even stronger, and Nappa basically kills off almost everybody. It's like the fucking Transformers movie, where, like, by Yamcha, like, you don't even get killed by Nappa, you get killed by a fucking Cyberman, you prick. You fucking couldn't even win. The only thing Yamcha has ever accomplished in the entirety of Dragon Ball, because I've read through now recently all this stuff in the manga, the only thing he ever did was defeat the Invisible Man in Fortune Teller Baba's tournament. And the only reason he did that is because Krillin flashes Master Roshi with Bulma's breast, and Master Roshi spews nose blood and splashes it on the Invisible Man, and that's how Yamcha wins the fight. So that's the only thing he's ever done, and it's kind of fitting that the only thing he accomplished was that, because it has nothing to do with him.
Yes.
So Yamcha gets killed, Chaozu blows himself up, Tenshin Han gets killed, Piccolo gets killed, and that escalation I love. And then you just get, like, the recurring Goku shows up, kicks some ass, kind of gets his ass kicked, but then comes back again. And then, same thing for like the Namek stuff. All the stuff on Namek is so good.
It is.
Of Krillin and Gohan and Vegeta all like sort of posturing and trying to figure out. That is the best usage of the Dragon Ball as a plot device, I think, in the series.
Easily. I actually think the Namek arc is really underrated in the fandom. And I think it's because people know the anime better and they know the second half of that arc better, which is with just the long fight, which is tedious, but I think the whole cat and mouse game on Namek is fantastic, and I've always loved it.
Yeah.
It's riveting. Like, even in the anime, yes, there's filler. I still find it riveting, and an episode, you just want to keep watching during that part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the escalation to Goku becoming Super Saiyan and fighting Frieza, and I just love the sense of this is the point in this series where these figures are so powerful that them fighting each other is blowing up the whole planet. Yeah. Like, even before Frieza intentionally is trying to blow up the planet's basically falling apart. Even if Frieza had not shot the ball into the core of Namek, that planet was fucked. It would have been fucked by the end of that fight. And so that stretch of Dragon Ball Z is for like Dragon Ball Z stuff is probably truly my favorite, even though I think probably the Android Cell stuff is executed better, and Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 is my favorite beat in the whole series. Like, I think that transformation, particularly how the anime does it.
Unmei no Hi.
Yes.
Best insert song ever.
Yes, it's that piece is incredible. But yeah, that's for me, that's my favorite bits of Dragon Ball.
So we pretty much love all of it.
Yeah, we love all of it. The only part of Dragon Ball, having reread through the original Dragon Ball piece of the manga, which is all just Dragon Ball, but whatever, you know what you mean. The only part that for me is fairly weak is the first half of the Red Ribbon Army stuff. Be like all the stuff with General Blue. And there's that whole section where they're going up Goku's going up the tower, and there's fucking the Terminator is there.
See, I like the tower stuff.
Ninja, like I like it. Okay, there's the whole section where there's these two parts of Dragon Ball that blow my mind that they exist every time I get to it. It's when Goku blows through the wall in Muscle Tower, and there's like a weird blubber man living in the wall of Muscle Tower, and he's only around for like one chapter, and it's totally meaningless. And it's something that when you watch the anime, you think, oh, this must have been made for the anime, and it's 100% in the manga. Then later, when they're in the fucking pirate base, there's a part where Goku fights a giant octopus. Both those parts of like, this is so, like, it's so, like, not Dragon Ball. Like, it's Dragon Ball never does stuff like that again.
It's funny, I have not actually seen all of the original Dragon Ball anime. I've read it in the manga many times, but I haven't seen the entire, because it does not exist in the same level of quality, at least over here.
No,
But one day I'm just going to have to invest and buy the Japanese Dragon box secondhand on eBay. But anyway, but the last time I would have done the Red Ribbon stuff was in the anime, not the manga. And I actually think that is one of the few times the anime ever improved on the manga is the Red Ribbon stuff, because in that first half they actually add a lot to it that I guess you would call filler, but I think just actually bolsters the story a bit. And the tower stuff in the anime actually is really good and like well paced, and all the stuff with Hachi is really good. And
yes, Hachan,
whatever they
Ninja Murasaki.
Yep. I mean, and then in the second half of Red Ribbon, you get into all the Tao Pai Pai stuff, and it's fun.
Yes, that stuff's great. Like, that's where Dragon Ball starts to like find itself as like the martial arts thing. But
yeah, it's all good. You know, the Buu arc is the one everyone will point to as probably the weakest arc overall, and it is, but it also it is so clearly you are just seeing a story unfolding on the absolute topmost layer of Toriyama's id in his head. And yes, you will get some downtime when he doesn't know what to do with Buu, but you will also get just spurts of inspiration that are so fucking wild. Like, everything with Vegeta in that arc is amazing. Yeah. It's everything with Vegeta in that arc is what allows Vegeta to be great in Dragon Ball Super 20 years later. All the stuff with Mr. Satan going from just this, you know, awful narcissist who is a liar and everything to a guy who legitimately helps save the planet because he finds this innocence in Buu and is able to tap into that. All of that's great. You know, the Goku Gohan stuff is really erratic in that whole arc. They don't know what to do with that. But
yeah, it's like if Toriyama had just streamlined the Gotenks, Gohan, Mystic Gohan, whatever you want to call that form of Gohan, and the Vegito stuff, and like streamlined that some way and made it more focused, or like cut out maybe two of those three or something, I think the Buu arc would be like maybe the best. But yeah, it just sags so much in that section.
Yeah, I mean the Buu arc, it's the one that he wrote when he was at the end of his fucking rope, and you get it. And what's funny to me is that we say at the end of his rope, and Dragon Ball did have a long run. It's about 10 years in the manga. The original Tankobon releases is 42 volumes. And that is a fucking penny in the goddamn water. I don't know how you say it. A drop in the water,
Yeah.
drop in the bucket of modern shonen anime and everything, where like Naruto is I think 72 volumes, One Piece just hit 92 volumes, you know, Bleach was in the 70s, like all of these ones, and Toriyama just was like, peace out, I'm fucking done. I'm done.
Well, and Dragon Ball's sort of unique in that sense, also compared to a lot of those others in that, you know, Bleach and Naruto, which I can speak to, like I have limited experience with One Piece, but then like those two in particular, which are like those two and then One Piece are like the three big like clearly post like Dragon Ball. Like Dragon Ball is done by the time those start.
DBZ Abridged has a great joke about that where Goku wakes up as Naruto and he's like, I'm Ninja Goku.
Yeah.
And I'm Pirate Goku and he's Luffy. That's what they are, yes.
Or Hunter x Hunter, which is probably actually the most clearly like Gon at the beginning of Hunter x Hunter is just Kid Goku. It is like kind of shameless. Which I'm more of a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho versus Hunter x Hunter, which is kind of an unpopular opinion nowadays. But fuck, Yu Yu Hakusho is fucking amazing. But like the post Dragon Ball Z shonen, they go for much more of a like at the beginning of Naruto's like, I'm going to be the Hokage. And if you're watching the horrible English dub, he then says, believe it. And it's awful. If you're watching the original Japanese dub,
the original dub, they fixed that when Viz got the dub.
That's
I
true.
think. Yes, yeah,
fair enough. Yeah,
that was the like edited for kids.
The way I was originally introduced to Naruto, he says, "I'm going to be the Hokage, believe it." And I was like, "I'm never going to watch this." And then like 10 years later, I watched the original Japanese. So this is actually really good. But he says, "I'm going to be the Hokage" at the beginning of Naruto. At the end of Naruto, spoilers, he's the Hokage. You know, ultimately he graduates to becoming Boruto's dad, the Hokage Naruto. You know. Like Bleach doesn't have anything quite as clear, but Bleach introduces in like its first really significant arc a villain named Aizen that is like the main villain for as basically the entire rest of as long as the anime ran. And then I know that manga kept on going past the anime, and I know that he comes back as a significant figure past that, which is like way more. This is like. At the like near the beginning of this series, things are set up that maintain for the whole thing. Or like One Piece.
He wants to be king of the pirates.
He wants to be king of the pirates and find One Piece. I don't know where that goes, but I bet he hasn't done it yet.
They're still on the Grand Line, I think.
Yeah, and then Hunter x Hunter, at the beginning of Hunter x Hunter, Gon wants to find his dad. Like 200 episodes later, he has like a fucking one conversation with his dad, and then the anime stops, and the manga keeps on going. So like that's how like post-Dragon Ball Shonen goes. I really like what Dragon Ball does of saying, no, we're going to have fucking discrete-ass arcs. And like, once this tournament is over, like, the next thing is going to be totally different. And now Goku's just fighting a fucking army, and it's crazy. And then we're doing another tournament that has like a thin connection with Tao Pai Pai. But like the Crane School, but other than that, it's totally disconnected. And that structure is something I really love about Dragon Ball. And I think it's one of the things that I like about that period of shonen, like that and Yu Yu Hakusho and Rurouni Kenshin that I really like, is that it is, as much as people complain about like, oh, the Buu Saga goes on for too long, fuck that. That shit's super focused. Like, compared to Naruto or Bleach or I assume One Piece, that shit is like, you know, that might as well be a movie compared to the way that those arcs go on.
I mean, One Piece's current arc, if I'm not mistaken, is like nearing 200 episodes or something. Like it's been like if you look on Crunchyroll, they have it by arc, I think. And I think the current one starts in like the 600s and they're in the 800s now or something. So, you know, and we're not putting down the other anime.
No,
just that Dragon Ball,
I love Naruto.
And part of why Dragon Ball, I think, stays renewable is that quality that Goku does not have one goal. He just wants to go out there and get stronger and experience the world.
Yeah, and Goku completely... I mean, he doesn't completely change that he's a different character, but he grows up so much over the course of it that he starts out as being 12, even though he originally says he's 15, and then Toriyama's like, that's ridiculous. Now he's 12, and then he's going to be 15 when I actually do the 3-year jump. And then by the time he ends Dragon Ball Z, he's like in his 30s maybe.
He'd have to be older than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have a grandchild at that point.
Well, you know, but Goku had Gohan when he was like 21 or something.
Right.
Because he's 18 in that Piccolo tournament.
Yes. So, but yes, Goku is older than we want to think he is, but you know, he ages gracefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. As long as you can write new things for Goku to go experience, you can do new Dragon Ball, which is actually, to me, the lesson of Dragon Ball Super, which we should talk about now. I mean, Dragon Ball had it's hard to say fallow period, because the actual fallow period for Dragon Ball was in Japan post-GT, so like 97 through like 2002, there was nothing, and then they started making the video games again with what came out here as the Budokai games.
Yeah.
And then they also did the Dragon Boxes, which was the first time Dragon Ball had any kind of home video release in Japan, and all sorts of stuff, and then it kind of came back. The thing is, that doesn't feel like a fallow period to us, because that's when Dragon Ball started coming out in the US and was huge.
Yeah.
So... And then, Dragon Ball Z eventually ends and GT ends and there are no new movies, but Dragon Ball never really goes away. There are always video games. There are always new home video releases. There are books.
Yeah, eventually over here we get... I mean, it was in Japan too, but it's basically for here was Kai. So, they're all of a sudden like... There's a whole new way to watch Dragon Ball, especially if you prefer watching dubs. That's basically the only way to watch Dragon Ball, English dubs, as far as I'm concerned.
Very, very much so. And it's the only reason you should watch Kai, because as for the Japanese version, it's a markedly inferior product.
Yeah.
But for the English dub, it's a markedly superior product. So, but yes. You always had those things coming out. But then, obviously before Super, the big resurgence comes in 2013 with Battle of Gods.
Yeah.
Which was the first new movie they had made in, it wasn't quite 20 years, it was like 15 years or something, since the 20th anniversary movie, which is called over here The Path to Power, which came out after Z, and it was during GT. It's essentially the GT movie, it's just set during the Dragon Ball period. Like Goku has his GT gi on, and it's the GT designs of everything. It's Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru was the designer for that. He's got I love his style, it's very specific. But they hadn't done one since then. Battle of Gods is the first one where they come back and do it, and notably, Toriyama is on board. He is not credited with writing Battle of Gods, but what we know is basically there was a draft. Toei was going to do it. They convinced him to take a look at it, and then something bit Toriyama, and he hasn't left since.
Yeah.
And I think he has said a couple of times, you can go find these online. I love these little interview tidbits around the time of Battle of Gods, that part of what kicked him in the ass to do this and really revise Battle of Gods and make Dragon Ball his own again was the US movie, Dragon Ball Evolution, which we've all forgotten about. The one with
Justin
Chatwin and Emmy Rossum.
From Doctor Who Return of Dr. Mysterio fame.
He's a good actor in everything else. So is Emmy Rossum is in that. I mean, it's got really... Chow Yun-Fat is in that fucking movie. He's Master
Roshi. Spike from Buffy.
Yeah, James Marsden.
Yes.
Who, in the dub of Super, have you heard about this? He plays Zamasu.
I did not know that. I did not really. It's a good performance, as I've seen some clips of that.
Yep, but he's not credited as it for union reasons, but Chris Sabat has basically said, no, people you can tell if you know James Marsden. But they did that as a little, give him something better to play in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, because his voice sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it.
That's really cool, I think. Anyway, but we're getting off topic. But there was the Dragon Ball Evolution movie, which is obviously very, very, very bad.
Yes, I've never seen it. I'm just taking it on faith that it must be horrible.
Yes, if we still had the Patreon and we were getting enough, money every month, maybe that would be a stretch goal. But
fuck that.
I'm kidding. We're never watching that. That's the one piece of Dragon Ball media that is not in my collection.
No, that's a bridge too far as far as I'm concerned.
And Toriyama really hated it, and he said a couple of times. You can go Kanzenshu has some of these on their website, the big Dragon Ball fan site, where he basically just says he wanted to do this in part to show how it's done because he felt personally offended by that movie. And so with Battle of Gods, if you go back into the material, it's really interesting. Toei was going to make that anyway, but the script was very different. Beerus was a much more evil character who had to be overcome. He literally made people evil. They were going to retcon the backstory and have it be he made Frieza evil, and that's why Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta.
Oh wow,
and things
that
like that.
Been bad.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking of that wrong. There was going to be a line about how he told Frieza to destroy Planet Vegeta, which is kind of in the movie. He says he allowed Frieza to do it.
Yeah.
The big thing was he made the Saiyans evil, is what they were going to do.
That also would have been very bad.
So he could infect people with evil. The character designs were going to be very different. All this stuff. And Toriyama came in and changed it to what we have. And when everyone saw Battle of Gods, I think it was this breath of fresh air, because it's not only is this new Dragon Ball, it feels like straight from the source Toriyama Dragon Ball. And I think the big revelation of that movie and what's come since is the revelation to me that Dragon Ball is much more of an auteurist work than we all thought it was. That it's not really something that you can go give to other people to do. You have to have Toriyama at least tangentially involved because, for instance, we just watched the Broly movie, Sean.
Yes.
Vegeta is horribly out of character in that. Goku is sort of in character in that movie, but in the other...
Goku has no reason to even be in the movie, honestly.
No. But in most of the Dragon Ball movies, the way Takao Koyama, the screenwriter of those, would write him is he made Goku Superman, and he would go up and be like, I have to defeat you because you're bad. That's almost never Goku's motivation.
Yeah.
Like, he will be mad if you hurt his family, but he usually is not a righteous crime fighter. You know?
No, he just wants to fight strong people and get stronger.
And that's kind of... that the subtext of Battle of Gods is Toriyama reorienting Goku from, I think, what he had become in the non-Toriyama Dragon Ball media, and I think especially in the West, where that is how the dub treated Goku as well. Yeah. Like, there's the whole famous speech of, like, I am the hope of the universe. Which,
ally to good, nightmare to you.
Which is... he doesn't say that in Japanese.
No.
And I think it was reorienting Goku, and it's a big success in part for that reason, and that Beerus and Whis just feel like they were always there, because they are such Toriyama characters. And then they did 2 years later the Resurrection F movie, and it was really fun. And Resurrection F is basically like one of the original DBZ theatrical movies, if it was done well by Toriyama.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. And then they started Dragon Ball Super. And Super gets off to a rocky start because they decided to retell the 2 movies that were already out there. No one knows why. I mean, we do know why. It's because they started really fast and had no stories, and they just had to do it by the seat of their pants. But then it gets into new stuff, and it gets really good. And we're in this really nice era for Dragon Ball because of that. And now Dragon Ball is possibly bigger than ever, to the point where now we have a new movie coming out less than a month out from the Japanese release. And it's just a wide national release in theaters. It's nuts. Like, I would not be surprised if the Broly movie hits the U.S. top 10 the weekend it comes out.
Yeah.
Which would be crazy. I don't think any anime has done that since the Pokemon? Probably?
Yeah, it must be Pokemon.
Yeah. Ponyo would have done it. That was the only Miyazaki movie that I think broke the top 10. But anyway. But yeah, so that's, I think, the good backstory here to how we got here. But should we talk about the show, Dragon Ball Super?
Well, I think we very quickly, because I don't want to dwell on it, but we do need to, I think, address the elephant in the room, which is Dragon Ball GT.
Oh, sure.
Because that's...
poor Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah, because Dragon Ball Super they had tried this before. Right after Dragon Ball Z was done, the anime, they basically said, well, we need to fuck.
Well,
Dragon Ball makes a lot of money.
I mean, this is, if you read Toriyama's author note in the last chapter, because DBZ, a lot of people don't know this, it's a great story. The way DBZ ended is in the penultimate chapter of the manga, there's a little panel at the end where Master Roshi says, something big is happening next week. Come see what it is. And no one knew, except Toriyama and the people publishing it, that what the fun thing was is, peace out, we're done. And that's what it is. And the next chapter goes, Goku flies off with Oob. If you were a fan in Japan at the time, you would turn the page being like, I can't wait to see what happens next. And what it is a big drawing of all the characters, and Toriyama saying, this is it. I'm really tired of writing this. Thank you for reading it. And part of what he says there is, I've been trying to do this for a while, but it took a lot of coordination with all of, the people who make this a thing. And, what the subtext there is that there's a lot of people who are going to lose their jobs because I don't want to write this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stop doing it. But that's how it ended. But of course the anime could not just, again, a lot of people would just lose their fucking jobs if that's what they did. So yes, GT literally started the week after Z ended. Like, the last episode of Z ends with a preview of Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah.
So Dragon Ball GT is just the direct continuation. GT, unlike Super, picks up from the end of Z, the stuff with Oob. 5 years later.
Yeah, so it's later. All the characters have different designs. They're all older. Vegeta has his infamous fucking mustache, because I don't know why. He cut his hair, which is a huge decision for a Saiyan, because full-blood Saiyan's hair is what it is when they're born, and it never grows. And so, like, a haircut for a full-blood Saiyan is like getting a fucking tattoo.
I saw this scene recommended to me on YouTube the other day. It's the scene from GT where Vegeta is driving Bulla, his daughter, to go shopping, and out on their way back, there's, like, guys flirting with Bulla, and he, like, drives them off the road.
Yes,
It's fucking crazy. They had no idea what to do with Vegeta.
Yeah. And I just think one of the reasons, before we talk about Dragon Ball Super, you need to talk about GT, is that I think, like, Super is like the mirror reflection of Dragon Ball GT. That basically all the bad decisions they made in GT, Super made the right choice. And probably a lot of that is having Toriyama's hand on the wheel. But GT as a continuation of Z is so lackluster because it chooses, among many things, it chooses to go backwards. So it chooses to, one, it regresses Goku to being Kid Goku and tries to redo the adventure-style stories of early original Dragon Ball, which is really just the first arc of trying to get all the Dragon Balls and the Red Ribbon arc. And that's it. Like that's actually the only 2 arcs in original Dragon Ball that do that. Because once you're past that, it's all tournaments or it's all Piccolo. Or Piccolo in a tournament. So, like, last was just kind of both. Because, and really, it's only the first half of the Red Ribbon arc, because as soon as Tao Pai Pai turns up, it stops being fun adventures, let's go get Dragon Balls, and starts being, I'm Goku, and I'm becoming a more powerful martial artist, and ascending up this sort of ladder, and that's kind of how Dragon Ball goes from there. GT tries to go back to that style. It doesn't quite work. Eventually, and then they just make this hard turn as soon as Baby shows up. Or, yeah, that's what his name, Baby.
Yeah.
Into being, like, trying to go hard into doing Dragon Ball Z style stuff again. They introduced Super Saiyan 4, which is a very whatever. I'm not a big fan of the way that transformation looks.
I think it's an admirable swing for the fences, considering this is the first time that team had to do something without Toriyama.
Yeah, but Baby is such a lackluster villain. All the fights in Dragon Ball GT are just terrible. Like none of that pacing works out very well. And I think part of the problem, the core problem for Dragon Ball GT, is that sense of we need to go backwards. We're trying to redo things that Dragon Ball Z already did. Like Baby just feels like a weird, like Frieza Buu kind of mix. Like it's like a Buu that hates Saiyans, basically, the way that Frieza hates Saiyans. And so, and then they go and do Super Android 17, which is them just trying to do an Android arc again in a way that, like, spoilers, that's where I stopped watching Dragon Ball GT. Like, I stomached through all the Baby stuff. The Super Android 17 stuff started. I'm like, I can't watch this. This is so bad. And which is sad because I think the only part of GT that I find kind of interesting is actually that last arc where they try to do something that is a little bit more forward looking and, like, let's recontextualize the Dragon Balls in a way that's like, again, the execution is sloppy as fuck, but the idea is at least them trying to do something new.
Well, and it's always been a kind of a tragedy that we never got to see more of GT, weirdly, because it was getting good when it got canceled.
Yes.
And I actually do think the last episode of GT is the best version of a Dragon Ball ending we've ever gotten, because the actual ending in the manga it's fine, but it is we're just going to stop the story here ending. So there are good things about GT, but it is mostly just, it's the bad version of it. And I mean, it was responded to that way. It had poor ratings. It was very poorly received in Japan at the time. And it went on. I mean, it got canceled after 64 episodes. That does not happen to a show like Dragon Ball.
So it basically ran for a year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that sets up for Super, which does basically everything completely different than GT, where it decides instead of starting way later, it's like a little bit after the ending of Buu. Yeah. And you know, it obviously starts with that Battle of Gods movie, and I think
it's in the middle of in Dragon Ball Z after they defeat Buu. There's a 10-year gap, and it's in that 10-year gap.
Yeah, which is something that Dragon Ball Super is eventually going to have to figure out how they're going to address approaching the epilogue chapter from the manga. But I think the core decision that turns everything around and like makes let's do more Dragon Ball work for me is Beerus and Whis in saying, instead of trying to do stuff we've already done, let's keep on going in the direction we were already heading, which had always been, if you're going back to all the way back to original Dragon Ball, it's Goku ascending up this hierarchy. That's like and actually like a lot of Dragon Ball Z, the Frieza Android stuff, that's the stuff that's the weird outlier, where before that point, it was always like, okay, like I meet Muten Roshi, who's like this great martial artist, and then I meet Karin-sama, the cat that's living at the top of this tower, who's just like, who taught Muten Roshi. And then I meet Kami-sama, literally God, and I train with him. And then I meet King Kai, who is in the afterlife or the other world, and he looks over this whole galaxy, not just one planet. And then you have, like, you fuck around with aliens and robots and shit. But then you get Kaioshin, or the Supreme Kai in the English dub, and he's above King Kai. And you can then ascend further in that direction, which is now there's the god of destruction and
Hakaishin Beerus.
Hakaishin Beerus, and then the angel advisor Whis, who is even more powerful than Beerus, and that's where Goku goes. And then obviously, like halfway through Dragon Ball Super, they introduce Zeno-sama, who is at the absolute pinnacle.
For now,
who knows? We've hit the pinnacle a couple of times. We thought we hit it with Kami-sama, and we've kind of kept on
with the character literally named God.
Yes, which is a joke that probably the dub was smart in not trying to replicate, but it's always sad to me that there's a lot of Dragon Ball fans that only do the English stuff that don't quite get how hilarious it is when Goku, after defeating Demon King Piccolo, bursts into the Kame house where everybody doesn't even know if Koku's really alive again or anything, and he just bursts in and he's like, hey guys, I need a Dragon Radar really quick. Oh, actually, I need my power pole. Oh, I'm gonna leave really quick. I'm gonna go train with Kami. And they're like, wait, did he just say he's gonna train with God? And he just fucks off for like 3 fucking years. No season.
And I want to make a comparison here. Getting back to the history of it a little bit, why I think the Ascension thing works so well for me too, and all the godly stuff. Because this is one thing we should probably talk about in this discussion with Super, is that Super is very divisive in the fandom.
Yes.
And, in the heart, I think generally people like it. There are the harder core corners where people generally just don't like things. But I think part of it is people are like, oh, they're fucking around with all these gods. It's like, it's lost its like personal stakes or whatever. And to me, actually, it feels very true to what Dragon Ball is, because Dragon Ball in its initial inception, so like the original arc, is inspired by Journey to the West, which is one of the 4 great Chinese novels of that classical period. And it is, and I say novel, it's like 2,000 pages. It's very, very big. And the English translation is 4 volumes, and you should read it because it's fucking amazing. But there's a lot you could get into with Journey of the West, but it is, in short, it is the story of Tripitaka, the Buddhist monk who traveled to the West to get these Buddhist scriptures, bring them back to the East. And one of his attendants is a character named Sun Wukong, who is the Monkey King. And actually, the beginning of Journey to the West, the first, I think it's 12 chapters, is the story of Sun Wukong. And I love that. If you only read one thing, get the first volume and read all the Sun Wukong stuff, because it's amazing. Where he is this monkey, like born of the earth, and he just starts like creating his own domain and all these other monkeys, and then he just goes up and fucks around with the gods, and he keeps going higher and higher until he is just such a trouble to all the gods, they trap him under a volcano. And that's what happens, and then Tripitaka finds him later. Yeah. And that is the inspiration for Goku. Son Goku is literally just the transliteration of Sun Wukong from Chinese into Japanese. Yeah. The kanji for, that's why Son Goku and the Son family are the only characters in Dragon Ball who have kanji names. The rest of them are all katakana names because they're puns.
Yeah.
But Son Goku is a kanji name because it is just Sun Wukong.
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of the ascension and meeting new gods and constantly surpassing limits and surprising the gods, that's Journey to the West. And I feel like that inspiration has never really left the series, even as its initial, party structure, which is supposed to be Tripitaka's gang, and Bulma is roughly the Tripitaka character, has been completely left behind at this point.
Yeah.
And it was by the time of you meet Master Roshi. But now, I do think there is some of that Journey to the West DNA in having it be this story about this character who keeps meeting new gods and not kowtowing to them.
Yeah, and instead of doing what Dragon Ball GT did and trying to go back and recapture some of the affectation of classic adventure style Dragon Ball, what Dragon Ball Super does with Goku is to say, instead of just trying to capture that affectation, let's recalibrate and recenter the show on Goku, and then they raised Vegeta up to being the co-protagonist for most. I think, generally speaking, he's the co-protagonist. Obviously, Goku still is the guy who has to win at the end because he's Goku, but Vegeta's right there alongside him in terms of importance, which is where he needs to be. But instead of doing the big ensemble stuff, which is what Z had become by the time you get to Namek, particularly, it's, you have long stretches where Goku's just completely absent in the manga, and then obviously even more so in the anime. Instead of going and doing that ensemble thing, which is still what GT is vaguely trying to do with all these weird cutaways to fucking Vegeta on Earth with his mustache and Bulla, but there's no substance there. Super decides let's refocus on Goku and refocus on what had been his story before we kind of got sidetracked, which is him progressively becoming basically at this point he's on track to be the god of martial arts. He's just becoming a more and more accomplished martial artist, from being this kid who was really strong but didn't kind of really know much to being now he's in the tournament of power, and he's oh, this is Goku. He's probably the most accomplished martial artist of any of these characters except for Jiren and and the gods. He's on that level, not just as someone who has a lot of power, but who's someone who understands martial arts. And that kind of martial arts fable thing that they recapture in Dragon Ball Super, that is my favorite thing that Dragon Ball Super does.
I agree, and I think that's a great way to frame what it does well, is that reframing around Goku. And also, now that you say that, I want the series to end with all the gods getting together and naming Goku the Great Sage Equal to Heaven, which is the bullshit name they give to Sun Wukong to try to placate him until he realizes, wait, this is a fake title, and he gets mad at the gods, and then they trap him under a mountain. And I think that is how Dragon Ball should end, is that they name him Great Sage Equal to Heaven, and then he gets bored and goes back, and Zen-Osama puts him under a mountain.
Yeah, it's like, you're just too much. You're going to eat everything in the universe, Goku. I'm sorry, you're just too much.
You're just too much. Yes, so I think that sets the scene really well. So when we talk about Dragon Ball Super, the weird thing is that you kind of have to break the series up a little bit because it had this... If you remember the timeline, what happened is Battle of Gods is March 2013. And these are all the Japanese dates. The English release of all this stuff is so weird because Battle of Gods took forever to come over here. Resurrection F was really quick, and then Super took forever to come over here. But now the new movie is... I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
I just feel like Toei is so fast and loose with how they like to play with the Dragon Ball franchise. Sometimes they're so protective of it, and then sometimes they're just like... it feels like the yen icon just pops on their eyes. It's like, oh shit, we could get this money.
Dragon Ball is the most popular anime on planet Earth, yes.
I mean, Dragon Ball Super basically went through half of its run before Crunchyroll got it.
Yeah.
You know.
It was a full year of serialization.
Very frustrating.
So anyway, but let's go back to the timeline. So Battle of Gods, March 2013. Resurrection F is March 2015. Super started July 2015. So they had, and it's roughly the same staff from the movies. Mm-hmm. You know, Resurrection F was directed by Tadayoshi Yamamuro, who's one of the 3 major character designers the series has ever had. He did not direct Super, but he was the lead designer on it, and then a lot of the people involved with it were on the movies, and so they had to put this whole crew together 3 months after the last movie. And Super just had to hit the ground running with, like, no plan. If you even look at this is one of my favorite analyses I've ever seen. If you look at the logo for Dragon Ball Super, it's super fucking wonky because they put it together so fast where they just took the Dragon Ball from the Dragon Ball Z logo, which is a logo that curves, if you've ever looked at it, and the Z curves with it. They chopped off the Z, they put Super on it, but here I'm going to show you this on what I mean. Super does not curve. It's there and it's going the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's how wonky the logo is because they did this so fast. It was such a, rushed production. But it gets on TV, and what they start with is a retelling of the Battle of Gods movie, but with the biggest change being it's on a yacht instead of at Capsule Corp.
And the Beerus fight goes on for a lot longer.
Goes on for 55 episodes or something. I'm kidding. Not really, but it feels like that. And then they do a couple of episodes of in-between stuff that's actually pretty fun. And then they do Resurrection F as an arc on the TV show. And that is about 35 episodes of the show is those 2 movies. And again, to future generations, this choice will make absolutely no sense because those are markedly the inferior versions of those stories. You should watch the movies.
Yeah.
But what it is we have to get a TV show started. We've had no time to write new material. Do the movies with filler? You know? And that's what they did. And those arcs are bad for a variety of reasons, I think. They are, number one, just really poorly animated because they had so little time and resources to work on this stuff. Like, the most famous one is, I think it's episode 5, is the episode where Goku fights Beerus on Kaiosama's planet. Yeah. And it's hilarious. Like, they actually did fix the animation a little bit for the Blu-ray, which is what Crunchyroll has. So you have to go to YouTube to see the original bad animation. And it's amazing that it made it on the air. So there were just a bunch of production pipeline problems. The story was not particularly well told. The Resurrection F arc tried to add new stuff where Captain Ginyu comes back. Yeah. And Piccolo dies again, but nothing comes of it. It's not particularly good. I think, again, like the first couple episodes before you get into Battle of Gods are fun. There's the one where Vegeta takes his family to the park. That's really cool.
Yeah.
There is, in the middle, there's all the stuff where Vegeta goes to train with Whis and then Goku follows him, that's where Vegeta gets pushed up to co-lead status. Yeah. And then that kind of follows through the Resurrection F stuff, and that's good. But really, it's not until you get out of those 2 arcs and you get Champa and Vados introduced, who are the Universe 6 Hakaishin and Angel.
Yeah. Because the multiverse concept was introduced at the end of the Battle of Gods movie.
Yep.
And so that had already been set up as... And it was basically when Dragon Ball Super was announced, they said that's where we're eventually going. I think they even had the design for Champa then.
Yeah, they did. Champa and Vados are in the theme song for 35 episodes before they show up in the show.
Yeah. So
in fact, if you read the Dragon Ball Super manga by Toyo Taro, which I recommend, it's really cool, in the Battle of Gods portion of the manga, they skip the Resurrection F stuff, but in the Battle of Gods portion, every chapter or so there will be a couple pages where they cut away to Champa and Vados looking for the Super Dragon Balls. I don't know why the TV show didn't do that. It would have been such a huge improvement. Because as it is, they kind of come out of nowhere. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, they had that all announced, but we had to wait to see it. Yeah,
and it just made it clear that those movie adaptations were to staunch the bleeding of like, fuck, we just put together this ragtag team right off of the movies, and there's no time, so we already know what this story is. We'll put it on a yacht because that'll make it easier to make it longer, and let's just try to build up enough so that by the time we get to adapting this stuff, we can really do it.
Yes. So, do you have any other thoughts on the movie adaptations?
Skip them. Like, I do really enjoy all the, like, what is typically called the filler episodes of just, as you said, the first couple, the little, like, stretch in between Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. So I would look up, like, what those episodes are. There's probably some guide or something. Yeah. Watch those, watch the movies, and then... But do not watch the stuff in between of them adapting the movie material because it's just not worth it.
No, and the break from the Resurrection F stuff to the Champa arc is so clean. You can just start right there. Feels like a new show because they got a new director at that point because this show changed directors twice in 3 years, which is that's not how it normally goes in anime. But yeah, so and the movies are great. I mean, we've said that Battle of Gods is still my favorite Dragon Ball movie. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing film, and Resurrection F is not as quote-unquote good, but it's really fucking fun.
Yeah, Resurrection F is, as you said, it's basically like the old Dragon Ball Z movies, but where it's just like, it's just basically the movie is just a big fight, but the big fight looks really cool, and there's new material and new stuff to see.
It's character-driven because the characters feel right.
Yeah, and Frieza's cool, and there's just some big moments. Like, I love when Vegeta gets to show that, like, it's that moment where you realize, all right, Frieza has no idea that Vegeta can even go normal Super Saiyan, and Vegeta just goes Super Saiyan Blue, and it's like, Frieza's mind is fucking blown. I love that part so much.
Oh, and the SmackDown Vegeta, it's like, I love that Vegeta really only fights in that movie for like 3 minutes, because it's character accurate. That he's not the guy who comes in and fucks around like Goku does. He's the guy who comes in and just kills you. Yeah. And that's what he does to Frieza, and it's amazing.
Yes.
Anyway, great stuff. So, but with Super, what we really have is the Champa arc, which is the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament, which is just a fun, friendly tournament. Like, the stakes are not particularly high.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the stakes are that Champa wants to use the Super Dragon Balls to wish Earth from Universe 7 over to Universe 6 because Earth has really good cooking.
I had forgotten that was even the thing.
Yep, and his Earth is gone in Universe 7 or in Universe 6, and that arc also has a really sweet ending where Beerus uses the Super Dragon Balls to wish Earth back in Universe 6 so Champa can have an Earth. Yeah. And Beerus is secretly really nice underneath that tough exterior. So you have that arc. Then you have the Future Trunks arc, which is where Future Trunks from the Cell Saga comes back again because a mysterious character known only as Black has shown up, and they need to figure out how to defeat him. And that arc is... It's what would happen if Hideaki Anno directed Dragon Ball.
Basically,
it's fucking amazing. And then... roughly half of the series is, this is where they do the switch over in theme song. There's also a significant shift in animation style that happens here, is the Universe Survival arc, which is where Goku has suggested to Zeno-sama they have a martial arts tournament with all of the universes, and Zeno takes that as, okay, but whichever universe loses gets erased, and now they are all fighting for survival, and you have like 20 episodes of build-up with Goku putting his team together, and then the tournament is, I think, 35-ish episodes, which is longer than any other tournament, even the Budokais from original Dragon Ball. And so that's the last arc, and it's the most significant one because it is about half the series. So yeah, we have those 3 arcs to talk about, Sean. And we should probably go in order, but I mean, in general, I mean, I love all 3 of those arcs. I think they're amazing. I think they flow into each other really well, and each one is better than the one that comes before.
Yeah, that's the main point, is like, it is like an ascending level of quality, and then once you get to the Universe Survival arc or the Turn of Power arc, it's not just like ascending in that, like, that arc is better than the other ones. Like, within that arc, it just keeps on getting fucking better and better and better until, like, the ending, which is incredible.
And I think what's significant to me, and going off what you said about how they've reoriented it around Goku, is that it's all about seeing new stuff. Mm-hmm. None of Super is about... Even though, like, one of the arcs is literally called the Future Trunks arc, and that... I remember when it was announced, I was like, that sounds lame. Like, that sounds like I love Future Trunks, but, like, are you doing anything new there? But they are. Like, each arc is about showing us new parts of the universe. So, like, Universe 6 versus 7 arc, that is about, there's a whole new universe, and here's a batch of new characters for our characters to fight. And a lot of those characters stick around, like Hit and Kaba and all of that.
And in particular, Hit, I think, was like... That's the big moment where Dragon Ball Super started to shift for me, is when Hit shows up and you get the first fight with Vegeta, where Vegeta loses because he doesn't understand Hit's ability to the time stop stuff, and then Goku fighting Hit feels like this is new Dragon Ball. Like, this is like... Hit is a different kind of villain. He's not even really a villain, but a different kind of character to cap off this tournament. And he's so interesting and so well executed and so different than any other Dragon Ball character that's come before him that he has to keep on showing up. And he has a little bit of stuff in between that and really where he gets a lot of cool stuff in the tournament power arc. But he keeps on popping up, and he's a character in the video game, and he's awesome. And it feels like when Hit showed up, that was the first thing outside of Battle of Gods that felt like this is like an iconic Dragon Ball Z kind of thing that's going to stick around in the franchise.
Absolutely. So there's new stuff there. And then the Future Trunks arc, like, Trunks is a returning character, but we never spent time in his future before, so we spend a lot of time there. Mai is ostensibly a character from earlier Dragon Ball, but she has been so recast that she might as well be new. And Zamasu and Goku Black... Again, it's an evil Goku. It's the third evil Goku in the series after Bardock and Turles from Tree of Might.
Yeah.
And yet, it feels like a really new take on that idea. Zamasu is an evil god. We have not had that in the series before. It's all about, like, inter-universe intrigue. It's a really different kind of arc. You know, Trunks' entire character arc, I think, is a different kind of thing than we'd seen before. Because for that arc, you have 3 leads. You have Trunks, Vegeta, and Goku. And Vegeta, frankly, is... Like, Goku is the least significant in that arc. It's Vegeta and Trunks. And then you have the Universe of Power, which is... the Universe Survival arc, Tournament of Power, which is all about we're going to go see new people in new places, and we're going to take a lot of old characters and bring them back, but in really new ways. Like, Muten Roshi has not been significant as a fighter since the, like, 22nd Budokai.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a lot of new stuff with him, and all of that's great. And even, like, Android 17, not a new character, but the way they use him, he might as well be.
They don't just try to make him a villain again, which is what GT did, of, like, trying to bend over backwards and be like, oh, let's have the androids again, but let's have them actually be the monsters this time, which lasted for, like, 5 episodes or whatever.
It's bad. So all of Super is really about Goku and friends experiencing new things. I do genuinely like that only one of them is there's a bad guy trying to destroy the universe. I like that the other 2 are tournaments of some kind or another, because Dragon Ball had not done a tournament since the 23rd Budokai. Like, there's the 26th, which is at the beginning of the Buu arc, but it's an abandoned tournament.
Yeah.
It's an aborted attempt to do that. So you know, it's kind of going back to roots, but also with this really forward-looking gaze. And that's what is so fun is, like, I wrote about this a lot when I was watching through the Future Trunks stuff, and I talked to you about it, Sean, where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm genuinely being surprised by things. I don't know where this is headed. I can't predict it. And in my entire history with Dragon Ball, I've never really had that, because if you grew up reading Dragon Ball or watching it the way we did, it was always spoiled for you.
Yeah. Because
you were watching it out of order. You just knew what kind of stuff was going to go down. You had to make sense of where you were in the series.
I knew what Super Saiyan 3 Goku looked like before I knew what Super Saiyan 2 Gohan looked like, because I'd seen the toy on, like, a page on the internet.
And so that's what I think makes Super so exciting, is it's let's do something new with it. And I think they do, substantively. So let's talk about the 3 arcs.
Yeah.
The Universe 6 versus Universe 7 arc. When I hit this part, Sean, it was like a warm bath. It was so comforting, but also new.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do a tournament again, and they actually did a tournament. And that's what made me so happy, is Toriyama would keep just tickling you with, like, I'm going to do a tournament. No. I'm going to do a tournament? No, I'm ending the series. The series is over.
Yeah.
You know? That's how he did it the last time. And so we never got another... Even the fucking BoJack movie starts with a tournament, and then BoJack shows up and they have to leave.
Yeah. Like, I think you have the filler Otherworld tournament with the Grand Kai, like all that stuff.
The Ano Yuichi Budokai, which is an arc I like because I like tournaments so much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not amazing, but I like the part where the Goku and Paikuan like touch the ceiling, and that's that's a really good ending. But yeah, other than that, you had Cell Games, not really a tournament.
Nope.
There's 2 fights, 3 if you really want to count Mr. Satan. You have as you said, the aborted tournament where you just basically get Videl versus Popovich, which is horrifying, and then Gohan going Super Saiyan 2. That's everything that happened. I think Krillin beats someone up. That's that's that whole tournament. And then you get the little one at the end that is you get almost nothing from.
Again, it's the one where he's setting up like, yay, we're going to get a tournament, and then he ended the series.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you get all that. But here we have that. I think Champa is a great character. I love Vados. I love their interplay with Beerus and Whis. I think all the Universe 6 fighters are fun, even if they're not really characters like Botamo or... What's the big metal guy?
I can never remember his name.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he's great. And they're really fun. Even if they're not characters, they're fun like designs and they're fun to fight. But then you have people like Kaba, who one of the best episodes Dragon Ball has ever done is Vegeta versus Kaba, where Vegeta realizes pretty early on he's going to win. But instead of just knocking this kid out, he decides to teach him.
Yeah.
And that's how the fight goes. Or Goku versus not Kula. What is his name?
Frost.
Frost. Sorry, I can't keep all the Frieza analogs straight. But yes, you have Frost, who you think is a nice Frieza, but then Goku is mysteriously eliminated, and we don't know why. And Piccolo figures it out, or someone does.
Yeah, I think it's Piccolo.
Yeah, and so you have Frost, and you have Hit, who's an awesome character, and it's just. It's a blast. It's really well paced. Every fight is fun. And I do think the highlight of that arc for me is the Vegeta Kaba episode because it's just a great episode. But, oh my god, when Goku goes Kaioken...
Super Saiyan Blue. Yeah.
Fucking good.
Yes. It's compared to the Goku Black, the Tournament of Power stuff, it's definitely the weakest of those, but it's where Dragon Ball Super starts finding itself. And it is, for me, it is like, in terms of the fight stuff, it is Goku versus Hit. In terms of the character stuff, it's Vegeta versus Kabe. Like, that's the... Like, that was where I probably, after I watched that episode at some point, like, the next time I had seen you after that, tried to be like, Jonathan, you should watch Dragon Ball Super without trying to tell you exactly why. Because I knew you would love that so much because... They just find this really interesting, which is something that Dragon Ball Super continues to do from this point forward, finding really interesting perspectives on the characters you know so well that build off of what you know about them. And Vegeta not just doing the thing like he does in the Broly movie where he's just constantly saying, I'm the Prince of all Saiyans, like it's me, I'm the Saiyan Prince. But there's no substance to it. It's just like, I'm the prince, which is something he developed in the Saiyan and Frieza stuff because he had the inferiority complex to Frieza, and it had meaning there. But past that point, every time he says he's the Prince of Saiyans, it's like, dude, there's 2 of you. Like, shut the fuck. There's 2 of you, or there's like 5 if you want to count some of the movies. I don't know. Shut the fuck up. But you killed like the other Saiyan. You blew fucking Nappa up, and you refused to revive Raditz. Fuck off. But here in Dragon Ball Super, you get that sense of, oh, right, no, he is the Prince of Saiyans. Like, even if there's only 2 of them, that pride he has is not just a character flaw. There is a positive element to it also, which is this sense of, like, he's royalty. Like, he knows how to lead Kaba, he knows how to command him, and he knows how to push him forward. And you see that him having grown softer, I think, as he would call it, through his relationships with Kakarot and Bulma and Trunks and like getting a family, has made him into the kind of person that if the Saiyans were a race again, like if he had a people to lead, he could lead them. And that's what you see in that Kaba episode, and that's so fascinating. It's so much better than any other material, any like pre-super like non-canonical extra material with Vegeta that anything has ever done.
Because Vegeta has always been a great character. From the moment we see him in the Saiyan arc, I think you see that character design and you know he's going to be there for the rest of time. Mm-hmm. Because he's not there in the beginning. I mean, Vegeta feels essential, but he's not in half of the manga. You know? Yeah. He comes in, I mean, it's not quite the halfway point, but you know what I mean. And yet, I think certainly other media has struggled. And even in the manga, I think Toriyama goes up and down a little bit in his treatment of Vegeta. Like, I think all the way through the Namek stuff, Vegeta is characterized perfectly. His stuff in the Vegeta arc and then in the Namek arc is so interesting up to his death, where his pride both dooms him to die, basically, but also makes him reach out to Goku and beg him to kill Frieza.
Yeah.
And Goku takes that with him into that fight, and it's amazing. Vegeta's death makes me tear up in the anime. It's so well done. But then you get to the Cell arc, and even though Vegeta is a major character there, I think he waxes and wanes in terms of how interesting I find him in that arc. Sometimes he's very interesting, sometimes he's not. But it is this period where I think Vegeta waxes and wanes on how much he wants to even be on Earth, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's a stranger in a strange land, basically, right? And then the Buu arc that is the biggest thing left at the end of the Buu arc that feels like there's more story to tell, is Vegeta. Because what Vegeta's arc is in the Buu arc is he has settled down. You think he's okay with the life he's living. Then Babidi comes in. He gives himself over to Madoshi Babidi. He becomes a Majin, character, and he becomes evil again. He sacrifices himself to try to atone for his sins. He dies. He eventually comes back, and in coming back, he realizes, no, Goku is better at this than me, and I need to be here to support him, not to just try to force my pride on everyone. And it's not that Vegeta becomes a hero through that. What he does is he reaches this level where it's I think I can live with this now.
Yeah.
And what Super does, and I think this is the masterstroke of Super with Vegeta, but also maybe just with the series, is it says, well, how does Vegeta actually live with that day to day? He's made this choice. He's made this commitment where he saved Earth. He helped Goku. He admitted that Kakarot is better than him. Now, how does he live day to day with it? And we see that in the episodes where he's just hanging out with his family and off going and training with Whis, but also not forgetting his responsibilities to his wife and son and all that. But then you get to the Kappa stuff, and it's, well, how does he live with it? It's, if he's going to encounter Saiyans again, he's going to be a better man about it. He's going to be a better Saiyan than he was before. He's going to be a better prince, and he's going to use that pride for a much more positive end. And I think it's really interesting because Vegeta is this character who is never in stasis. He is in a constant state of flux. That's what makes him so compelling. That's why he is the model for so many other anime characters as the bad guy who turned good, because he's the bad guy who never quite lost his bad boyness, you know?
He always has that edge. He always has bad man on his pink shirt.
Yes. It's great. He looks so good in that pink shirt. They need to bring it back. But anyway, he rocks it. But anyway, so seeing Vegeta, I think, really have to learn how to live with this as a person. And they actualize that through Kappa and through the Future Trunks stuff and through then in the Universe Survival arc. Including where he's absent from the Universe Survival arc also tells you a lot about Vegeta. He's not there for the entire recruitment thing because he's taking care of his pregnant wife. And that's a choice he's made, and it says fucking volumes because he has grown up more than Goku has at this point.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love so much about his character in Super is Vegeta is a good dad. He's especially by the standards of Dragon Ball, he's almost as good a dad as Piccolo is. Not quite Piccolo levels, but he's almost there.
Yes. He becomes... there's a moment where... they are so good about characterizing him that when Bulla, her name is really Bra, it's easier just to say Bulla, is born, they do this amazing moment where he holds her, and he does it under this pretension of no, Trunks, you're doing it wrong. But what it's a callback to is the moment he dies in Z, the second time he dies in Z as Majin Vegeta, and he says to Trunks, I never held you as a kid. I'm sorry, go be good to your mother, and then he dies. And it's clearly a conscious, he is growing from that moment. And there's things like that carry throughout Super that, I don't know if that's Toriyama at the wheel. I don't know if that's just a story team that is really attuned to where the story has been and where it should go. But whoever it is, it's really smart stuff.
Yeah, and that fight between him and Kappa and him pushing Kappa to become a Super Saiyan is just awesome.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is all, we're going to have to talk about this at the end, this is all why I'm excited for the Broly movie, because it feels like that's why you bring Broly back, is because you have Vegeta. And Vegeta, in this continuity, would react to Broly so differently. I can't wait. We'll get to that. So anyway, anything else to say about the Universe 6 arc?
It's cool.
It's so cool. It. Yeah. Also, the last episode where they make the wish on the Super Dragon, and we basically just have 15 minutes of super fucking trippy animation. It's the trippiest thing Dragon Ball has ever done. And then it ends with, again, that great character moment for Beerus, where Beerus does something nice for his brother Champa. It's so cool, and it's it's such a neat expansion of Dragon Ball's aesthetic boundaries, because this is also where they're starting to get the animation in whack. It's not great throughout that arc, but it's great in pockets, you know? And it will start to get good consistently from here on out. Mm-hmm. But yeah. All right, Future Trunks arc. I think the Universe Survival arc is better. I would definitely say that. The Future Trunks arc is the most fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's, especially when you're in like that middle stretch where it's like it constantly twists and there's like they really have you on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what the fuck is Goku Black exactly. Yeah, because it's not just evil Goku. It's so clearly immediately this is not just evil Goku. Like when they first teased the Goku Black thing, I thought for sure it was Goku from a parallel universe that did not get his head bumped. It became evil. Like I thought because it was something that like. I'm sure there's some dumb Dragon Ball Heroes card thing, whatever, that has done that. But it's always been a thing that I'm like, I can't believe I've never seen that in Dragon Ball. In like a game or something, here's Goku who didn't have his head bumped and wiped out humanity, and what if that was the Goku we had? And you, with the multiverse setup, you so clearly have this opportunity to do it, and then with time travel, you have such an opportunity to do it. But the direction they went in is so much better than that idea.
It's because Toriyama is the ultimate not backwards-looking artist.
Exactly. He doesn't give a fuck.
He doesn't remember he wrote that, Sean?
Yeah, he doesn't remember, like, half the characters that were in Dragon Ball. Like, who cares?
On the original Tankobon, the graphic novel spines, there's an image that goes across the spines, and Yajirobe is on it twice within about 5 volumes because he forgot he drew. And he says that in the opening to that volume. He's like, my editors told me after I submitted the art that Yajirobe is on here twice, but I didn't want to fix it. I'm too lazy. Yeah, that's who he is. And so, we're not going to do that. We're going to go forward. And, so you have, that first episode where you just start, because that first episode is set, I think, entirely in the future.
Yes.
And we're just following Trunks, and it's even worse than it was the last time we checked in with Trunks, and it's him and Bulma, and this is the other thing, for me, one of the things that haunts all of the last half of Super is the death of Hiromi Tsuru, who voiced Bulma.
Yeah.
Who, let's just back up for a second, because there's actually 2 things that haunt me. There are 3 actors who are in the first episode of Dragon Ball who have been in Dragon Ball ever since. And that's Joji Yanami, who is the narrator, and he's also later Kaio-sama, and he's like in every episode as the random voice in the background, too. Like, he's also Dr. Briefs and things like that. Yeah. So you have Joji Yanami, who's the narrator, you have Hiromi Tsuru, who is Bulma, and you have Masuko Nozawa as Goku. And those 3 have just been a constant in the show ever since. Joji Yanami is in the beginning of Super for about 12 episodes, and if you listen to the Japanese, it's really, really hard to listen to his parts because he's so clearly struggling with the lines. Yeah. And he had a stroke, he had a lot of medical problems, and he eventually stepped back from the show, and they recast the narrator and Kaio with someone else. So I think did a really admirable job through Super, but I will always feel a twinge of sadness when I hear the narrator and it's not Joji Yanami.
And after that point, Kaio-sama kind of stopped appearing in Dragon Ball Super, basically.
Yeah, he appears there's the one episode where Goku is trying to get the Dragon Balls to resurrect Kaio finally, and that's the most significant use of Kaio-sama. So Joji Yanami he is still alive, but he's not working anymore. Hiromi Tsuru died near the end of Dragon Ball Super. She died young. She was in her 60s. I think she had an aneurysm, was the official cause of death. Yeah. And tragic, she had been, again, just a constant presence. And, by the time, she died during the tournament arc where Bulma is not really in that part of the story anymore, which means her final line in Dragon Ball is, she says, "You guys are our last hope," as she's watching them fly away to the tournament. It's so poignant, you can't even believe it.
Because I don't know if this happened while, when she died, or if it was they had just moved on from this ending animation. But they had I don't know,
Boogie Back is the song,
yeah, which has old, young Bulma from the beginning of Dragon Ball and old Bulma from Dragon Ball Super. It's my favorite ending from Dragon Ball Super.
It's great. I believe she was still alive for that. I think that was just happenstance.
Yeah, but I think maybe, because it was just, no, I know that ending was not a tribute to her.
Right.
But I think maybe she died while they were using that ending, because I just remember seeing that ending, knowing she had moved on, and just, it really hit me hard.
Yeah, and when I watched Super, I watched it knowing she had passed. And so the thing is, though, as horrible as that is, one of the nice things Super does is that the Future Trunks arc is as good a send-off to that character or that voice at least, because you can't get rid of Bulma from Dragon Ball. They're going to have to keep going with her. Because she's a huge character in that, both as future Trunks' mom, but then also as the Bulma we know who helps Trunks. And, it's somewhat fortuitous that they had a story that used her a lot, knowing that she ultimately passed away, because she's really well used throughout that arc. Although it was extra traumatic to me because old Bulma does die in the first episode of the Future Trunks arc. But it's a very dramatic start, and then again, she is a super active member of the team throughout that entire stretch of the show. But yeah, so the Future Trunks arc starts off really fucking intense with Black just decimating our last characters in the future, because Trunks also thinks Mai is dead. Mm-hmm. And then Trunks gets back by the skin of his teeth, and now there's a mystery of, there's this guy, he has a time ring, he's an evil Goku, and he's destroying my future, and I don't know what the hell is going on, and he can move through dimensions also, because he appears briefly in the present day. And then, Beerus senses a godly energy about him. They go and they visit Zamasu and Goas, who are that actor also just died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's fucking sad. There's so many old actors on Dragon Ball, you're going to be really sad if you watch it long enough.
Yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, they go and meet. That's the universe 12 people, right?
I think it's 12 it's 12.
Yeah. And so you have those characters, and Zamas is, at this point, just the, rebellious young, Kaioshin in training.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what's going on there, and so Beerus is wrapped into the mystery. Meanwhile, we're trying to figure out how to defeat Goku Black, and it is a hell of an arc. It is one of the only arcs, and I would include, because I think the Universe Survival arc I love. I think it has some pacing issues here and there. The Future Trunks arc is crazy well paced.
Yeah.
Because it's every episode is what it wants to be. Right up until the last episode, which is pretty bad, and needed to be 3 episodes at least. But other than that, it is just so well paced and laid out, and it is, I want to say a page turner, even though it's not on the page. It's a show, but it's you just can't. I did 9 episodes of it in one sitting.
Yeah,
it's crazy good.
Yes, it is. It's trying to unravel that mystery. I think I said about it on the podcast after I had watched it that it was basically Dragon Ball Super kind of trying to recapture some of the feeling of that middle bit of the Android Cell stuff, where it's transitioning from Android to Cell, where there's it's one of those, my favorite episodes ever of Dragon Ball Z is that when they discover the other time machine and Trunks and Gohan and Bulma go check it out. It's just that blew my mind so much as a kid. It's just what the fuck is going on? We have all these androids to deal with. The android situation is already so fucked because there was way more. There's 5 androids. There's supposed to be 2. 2 of them are dead, but there's still 1 more than there was supposed to be. The other 2 are stronger than they're supposed to be. And now there's another goddamn time machine with a bug fucker in it. What the fuck is going on?
Yes.
And this has that quality, just there's another time machine. And I love that so much.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then when the fights start, my God, they've pretty much gotten the animation in order at this point. Mm-hmm. It is really good. I also think it's worth talking about the music, because I do think overall I find the music to be a weak link on Dragon Ball Super. I think Norihito Sumitomo has some good music. I like some of the tracks in Battle of Gods. I like some of the tracks in Resurrection F. It does not ever sound super Dragon Ball-y to me. I think the music in classic Dragon Ball and Z by Shunsuke Kikuchi is just so fucking masterful and great. You can never really replace it. But I think Kikuchi during the Future Trunks arc gets pushed in new directions and starts doing better stuff. And I think there's some really cool music in that arc that complements some of the just wild, almost surreal imagery that happens.
Yeah.
And I think it works well. And of course, you get Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, which is great.
Yes.
But the best part is when Trunks just summons the power of all his people and uses his sword, and it becomes this just fucking beam of light. And this is where it really is Hideaki Anno's Dragon Ball, and just cuts, Zamasu merged in half, and with that amazing choral music in the background, it gets really good.
Yeah, and I just love the dynamic of Trunks. It has been pushed so far beyond any reasonable limit of that. It's not, my family is dead. It's not my species is dead. It's this entire world is falling apart again. I already went through all this shit to save it, and now again it is falling apart. And not only is it falling apart, but it's not because it's just Cell who's an evil android bug monster. It's a god who is this arrogant piece of shit. Zamasu is such a great villain. both Zamasu and Goku Black, who is like another version of Zamasu. Incredible villains, incredible performances, but they're just you love to hate them so much. In that moment where Trunks is pushed to the absolute limit and becomes this crazy other weird form of Super Saiyan, where he's just like, fuck this shit, like no more, and he pushes himself beyond that limit, and it's just that I think it's that like right at the end of an episode he's just stomping, he doesn't have pupils in his eyes anymore, he's just like, fucking no way, dude, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, it's a great moment.
It's a great moment, and the thing that is the downfall of the future Trunks arc, I say downfall, it doesn't ruin the arc, but it does cheapen it to me, is that the last episode, like, the way the arc should have ended is where we just described it. Trunks summons his strength, cuts him in half. That is such an amazing ending. It feels so true to Dragon Ball. It puts it all on Trunks. It's a really, really great ending. And then in the next episode, Zamasu returns as this like weird ethereal being. And, you know, look, this is not out of character for Dragon Ball. There are plenty of moments where you think the villain is beaten and they come back one more time like that. That literally is the Vegeta fight, the Frieza fight, the Cell fight, the Buu fight 25 times. They do it over and over again. But it happens, and in a this is all one episode, in a very compressed span of time, Zamasu destroys Trunks' entire world and all of his friends and family, the remaining friends. He has no remaining family. And all of them are dead. And then Goku summons Zeno, brings Zeno, has Zeno destroy everything, leaves. Everything's gone. Trunks is really sad. Goku goes back, gets Zeno, gives Zeno to the other Zeno, so now there's two Zeno. Then Goku comes back. Whis says to Trunks, well, maybe I can put you in an alternate timeline before all this shit happened, because we already killed Zamasu, because there's that episode where Beerus does the Hakai.
Yeah, and he just disintegrates that fucker.
Yep, it's great. And so they do that, and Trunks goes home, but then they don't really grapple with at all that this is Trunks going to an alternate dimension. Like, it's really fucking weird. It completely breaks all the like rules they've kind of carefully laid out throughout this arc. And then it's just kind of over, and it's really weird because the right version of that to me is Trunks would defeat Zamasu, and then the final episode would just be denouement from that, and like winding down. And instead it's more rising action, and then a really abbreviated denouement, and then we just kind of have to move on, and it's pretty deeply unsatisfying, and I'm sad they couldn't have a stronger conclusion to that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it's been long enough since I watched it that, like, I don't even remember how it ended, honestly, because I think it just has that really rushed quality to it. Some of the stuff I do remember from the Future Trunks arc, though, is earlier, before, like, the fights start in earnest, where you have that period of time where Trunks gets to revisit everybody from the timeline, which is like, because this is like, for me, this is what if you bring back Future Trunks, this is the stuff you want to do with him, is to have him see what is this world that he helped save. Because if Trunks had not gone back in time, our timeline would have been fucked as well.
It would have just been his timeline.
Yeah, exactly. So it is so great, and it's particularly when he goes and visits Gohan and realizes that the Gohan that he knew that became his master, you know, in like the History of Trunks special and all that, who lost his arm and the reason why Trunks became Super Saiyan, that Gohan never comes to exist in this universe because he gets to live the life that Gohan wanted to be able to live. He's settled down with Videl. He has a daughter in Pan. He gets to become a scholar. He doesn't have to fight because he's never liked fighting. All he wanted was to be an academic. And he gets that life. And Trunks visiting Gohan again and seeing that, it hit me so hard.
That's the best episode of this arc. Yeah. Because there are, I think, Super is weird because, you know, old Dragon Ball, I couldn't really tell you individual episodes, other than like, you know, Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2 or something, but it's not episodic. Super does have, because it's paced differently, it's not based on a manga.
Yeah.
There are discrete episodes that are just great half hours, and I think the Vegeta Kappa episode is a great, all-time great half hour. This one's even better, the one with Gohan and Future Trunks. It's because it's got no fighting. It doesn't even have the big drama of that arc. It's just that Trunks experiencing this humanity that he is so detached from. Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's one of the best parts of Dragon Ball ever, frankly. It's an amazing half hour.
Yeah, and it's one of the advantages of having this like more focused perspective of where you kind of promote for this arc Trunks as being one of the lead characters, is you see things from his point of view in a way you never did for Future Trunks, other than maybe that little like epilogue bit in the History of Trunks special. Everything else is like he's the kind of mysterious character on the edges. And here you see like he has fucking PTSD. Like, you know, he is so traumatized by the experiences he's had that he's having delusions and stuff and seeing the city as it's been destroyed. He also has, there's that great moment. This is another one that hits me so hard where he sees Android 18 and realizes that Krillin has married her and that she's good. I mean, she kind of like teases him and jokes around with him. And it's like that stuff, again, it's a little bit on the fan servicey side, but it is used in like such a powerful, legitimate character building and narrative exercise that it's not just like hey, like it would be cool to see what if Future Trunks got to come back and meet all these characters again. It is using that to build up a larger character arc for Future Trunks in a way that it is a little bit fan servicey, but in the perfect way.
Yes, I agree completely. So 3 other notes on this arc. 1, Mai, awesome character. She's great, and I love that Trunks even if I think the ending is unsatisfying, I like that Trunks has this person to go build a life with.
Yeah.
It's enough of like a hopeful ending for him that I think that works. 2, I like the blue hair. I know it's really divisive. Trunks has blue hair in this arc, which is a complete retcon. There is no version of Trunks in the manga or the anime where Toriyama colored him with blue hair. He always had purple hair. But he now has blue hair, which matches Bulma's. I like it. I think it's really good. It looks cool, and I think it actually matches the like modern aesthetic of Dragon Ball better than if they had kept the purple hair.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be something if they were if he looked like Dragon Ball Z Trunks, I wouldn't like it. But it's a different aesthetic entirely, and like, you know, they changed his costume and everything. I like his like red scarf kind of thing. Like with that aesthetic, I like his blue hair a lot.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, because Toriyama did a new design for him, and I think as a new design, it all works really well. And you know, the blue hair rocks, so I like that. Yeah. 3rd, Masako motherfucking Nozawa in this arc. I mean, Goku, she's always great. Gohan, always amazing in that episode we talked about with. Oh my god, she's great in that. Mm-hmm. As Goku Black. When she gets to do evil Goku, it's always so fun. As Goku Black, it's fucking terrifying. Like every line she has. Like I would have to listen to this all with headphones just so I could hear everything, because the mix on Super is not all that great. Sometimes it sounds a little rushed, but you can hear it's just dripping with evil, and I love it. It's amazing.
It's such an unbelievable performance. As soon as you get that first episode and you get this, because I just love the whole character. I love the super arrogant Dragon Ball villains. Like most of them are, but like this is especially just the sense of it's not just a sense of I am right. It's this feeling of like I have to be right because I am literally a god, and that like there's a self-confidence to that is even beyond the kind of shit that Frieza had. Whereas like Frieza had that self-confidence because Frieza was really strong, but Frieza wasn't literally a god. There's like a sort of like a bulletproof argument almost that Zamasu gets to have, and in Masako Nozawa, that just sheer cruel confidence in her performance is so just like delectable. I love it.
It's amazing, and it's so clear to me that the logic behind all that is like we're doing a new arc, we need a new villain. Who should we get to voice them? Well, we have the best voice actor on planet Earth here every week anyway. Let's let her do it because there will literally be no one better because Masako Nozawa is the best at what she does. So go for it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So actually, before we get the universe survival arc, there is this stretch, and it's the last stretch of this directorial team before new directors come on and they switch the anime opening and the animation style, where they just do like 12, I guess you would call them filler episodes. Filler technically denotes when you're filling for manga. They're not doing that here, so it's really not filler, but it is like episodic storytelling. This is where we get the one where Goku hires Hit to assassinate him.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's the most Goku thing Goku has ever done he buys out Hit for a fight.
He does that. We get the one where Goku tries to get the Dragon Balls to resurrect Kaio-sama, but everyone else wants a wish, and ultimately Kaio-sama stays dead. That one's fun. Although, that one I was too sad about Joji Yanami to laugh at it. But there you go. You have that one. My favorite in this stretch is the baseball episode.
It's the best, yeah.
Where Champa and Vados come to do a baseball tournament with Universe 6 and 7, and Yamcha is the MVP of it, and it is so winking and nodding, and it is great.
Yeah, just because none of the other characters basically have any idea what baseball even is from like a conceptual point of view. In Yamcha, this is where they pull in the like obscure fact from like Dragon Ball Z filler that Yamcha is a pro baseball player.
Yep.
And so he's and I love how confident he is at the beginning of that episode of like, I've got this. Like, I don't care how powerful they are. I'm the only one who even knows how to play this game. I'm the only one who has experience playing this game. And then by the end of it, he is back in his Yamcha hole where he belongs. Cradled into the ground. and you just, there's such a great, it's like one of the only times past like the very beginning of Dragon Ball where it has ever broken the fourth wall, but there's that moment where Krillin peeks over the edge and says, there's something about this pose that just, it really is familiar and it makes me uncomfortable. And Gohan and Piccolo are like, yeah, right? And because they're the only ones there that had been in that original fight. And it's so funny.
Yep. So we have that. We have the Goku Arale episode.
Yep.
Which is
classic.
It's fun.
That's where I love you have the Vegeta fighting Arale, and Vegeta realizes that she's a gag manga character. And again, the weird fourth wall break. And so he's trying to beat her using gag manga rules by saying like, look over there, and then kicking her into a wall.
Yep. You have the two-parter about Gohan and the Great Saiyaman movie that's being made, which is really fun and is also very sweet because of how it deals with Gohan and his family life.
And that's where it feels like it feels so much of a piece with the Great Saiyaman filler from the beginning of Majin Buu, where they expand out that part from the manga.
This is also one of the ones where Jocko is on board for the adventure, because Jocko isn't here. He's awesome. You get the one where Goku has no one to train with, so he goes with Krillin, and they do the fight in like the weird spiritual dimension.
Right.
And it's not my favorite of this, but it does a good job of setting up Krillin for what'll come in the next arc. So you have all of those, and my takeaway from those like 12 episodes or so is that I want a series where they do just like a normal run of anime, like 26 episodes, and just do that. Just do standalone stories and let people invent, and maybe even bring in like guest writers. Like, I'd love to see Eiichiro Oda or someone like just write a Dragon Ball episode.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun. And they could do things like that because it's a really fun, just like, what if Dragon Ball were a sitcom for like a season?
Yeah, that's like what if Dragon Ball was like a weird slice of life anime?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really cool. So anyway, I like that. But then we hit the changeover. We get our new directors. We get the new animation style, which it's not so much a style as like a production process, but it does look different. It's got this kind of grain on it. It looks a little earthier. I like it a lot. It looks better.
Yeah.
It doesn't look so digital, which I think I do have a problem with. Super and the first two movies just look so digital and like they're not CGI, but you know.
Yeah, well, the movies have a little bit of CGI in them.
Yeah, but it's just a little too digital for my taste, but the new process looks a little, like I said, earthier and more grounded. You get the new theme song, which is fucking amazing, Genkai Topa, Ex-Survivor, and you get the new story, which is Goku initially does the worst thing anyone has ever done in Dragon Ball and breaks, Beerus's rule and goes and talks to Zeno and gets him to set up a tournament where entire universes will be erased from existence, and it's kind of horrifying. It all works out in the end. Goku didn't mean to, but it is probably a bad thing he did.
Well, no, because Zeno-sama was going to start a call of the universe anyways, and it was only by offering the opportunity of the tournament that all the universes could prove their worth in the end, and then he spares all of them. It's great. It's exactly what Goku planned. It's not what Goku planned, but I do love that they eventually give Goku that out, because otherwise, I don't know if I would like Goku anymore. It would be too much, but I also like that the out is very plausible, and it feels like it's a little bit cliche, but it feels like what the characters would have done. Of course, yeah. So we get the universe survival arc, and the first half is, not the first half, but the first 20 episodes or so is Goku assembling the Universe 7 team. We get a lot of fun episodes here. I love that Gohan, who had really not been a factor in Super up to this point, he's only a side character in the two movies. He's not in the Universe 6 arc at all. He's in that one episode of Future Trunks, and then he's gone for a lot of that. But now Gohan is like the first guy Goku confides in, and father and son become a team here, putting the team together. That's really cool. And I love that Gohan, because it's literally all of his
everything will be erased. Gohan's like, I should probably fight again.
Yeah, it's like, okay, Dad, I'll get back into this.
Yes, and Gohan, it's a really... I love how Gohan is used in Super, even when he's not used. Like, one of the things I like is that they just let Gohan grow up.
And they respect the character arc that he had through the Boo stuff. Because I know a lot of people, it's particularly in the West, I don't know what the Japanese perspective on this is, but I know that it's a very common feeling that Gohan should have, after beating Cell... Gohan should have just been the main character, and he should have filled the role of Goku and been the fighter dude and done all the fighting stuff. And I understand why people would feel that way, but I really actually way prefer... No, like, Gohan's arc has never been about him needing to be the guy who's always in the fight. It is about him, like, needing to know, like, when he needs to fight and to be that person that can do that and fight for the right reasons. But it is more about, like, he needs to be able to live the life that he wants to live. And that's where the Boo arc recenters him back on at the beginning. Is he's a goofy kid who's smart and dumb in the funny ways, smart in the good ways.
I also think people have this weird perception that Toriyama intended Gohan to be the new main character. He didn't. He brings, especially if you read the manga, the Great Saiyaman thing is like 2 chapters in the manga. Yeah. It's really, really short. It's extended and actually pretty substantively changed in the anime. In the manga, he brings Goku back immediately. Like, there's no downtime there. It's never, this is clearly our new main character. It's, we're going to be with Gohan for a little bit, but Goku's coming back.
Yeah.
Because Goku is the main character of Dragon Ball. You just can't do it without him. So yeah, I respect that character growth too. I love that the show lets him grow, and when they do bring him back for the Universe Survival arc, they let him be a fighter who feels informed by all those things that happened. Like, he's the tactician. He's in Fire Emblem. He's the guy you'd be playing as, directing the troops around the field. And now that I've said that, I want the Dragon Ball's tactical game where Gohan is your tactician, and Goku is your heavy or something, but you move your pieces around the board. I fucking want that.
Yeah. Because there's a couple of moments when they're like setting up the team with Gohan where he goes back to Piccolo to start over from the beginning, like, train me up again, Piccolo. And I love there's some moments in there where there's some really great insights into Gohan's character where Piccolo kind of points out this, like, you always do this, like, you always do this arrogant bullshit thing where once you get a big power up and you think you're the big strong guy in the room, that you always let your guard down, you always let yourself, like, you always let it go to your head, which is so true. It's ever since the very beginning of Dragon Ball Z, when Gohan was introduced, that has always been what he did, whether it's against, like, the Saiyan or Frieza stuff, or it's very much against Cell. That's how Goku gets fucking killed. And then when it's against Majin Buu, he shows up, he's all powerful, he's a big, tough guy, I can kick your ass, and then he lets his guard down and lets himself get absorbed. And I love that they then, like, Piccolo points that out and says, we need to work on that, and you need to get better at that. And that sets him up for then being in the tournament, that he then gets to be the tactician because he knows to be cool-headed, and he knows that I am nowhere near the most powerful person in this tournament. That's not where my advantage lies. My advantage lies in my intelligence.
Yes, it's really cool. And we've talked about this before, Sean. The most mind-blowing thing Masako Nozawa has ever done isn't Goku Black, as great as that is. It is Goku and Gohan as adults somehow being fully separate characters where you can just close your eyes, listen, and you will always know which one it is, even though vocally they are not that far apart.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. Some of it is the writing. They're very well written as different characters. Their speaking style is different. But it's also just this slight intonation difference. That's Gohan, that's Goku, and you never doubt.
Yeah. There's also a moment with Gohan and Goku that I love where they have their little practice fight, and Goku has this line that hits me really hard where he says, I've been spending all this time trying to find all these other super strong people to fight, and I've forgotten I've had you right here beside me the whole time, Gohan. That really gets me.
That's a good line. Now I'm getting choked up by this. It's good stuff, yeah.
Dragon Ball Super is so good. It has just such a strong sense of its characters.
It does.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so you have all these, all the episodes where they're recruiting the different fighters is so much fun. I think that you have the Gohan stuff we talked about. You have, obviously, Krillin and Android 18 come along. Yeah. That's a really fun one where they do this big sparring match. My favorite one, though, is the Android 17 stuff. Mm-hmm. Because, spoiler alert, my whole takeaway from the tournament is that Android 17 is the biggest revelation of the entire Universe Survival arc. Because, spoiler, he survives to the fucking end. Yep. Which, if you gave me 1,000,000 years in a fucking padded room reading Dragon Ball, I would never have predicted that.
Yeah.
That's where they would go with it. It's so good. He is such a reborn character. Because I always love 17 in that arc, but 18 is the character who they pick to like be the one who grows and changes. 17 is like the other one in the background. And somehow, without changing who 17 was, who we knew earlier, like, I love how he's become a park ranger and he has a family, but he is still kind of this detached being because he is half robot.
Yeah, and he like sees things as like this weird game. Like he has that weird aloof perspective that he's always had. Like, let's just ride around in the car because it's fun. It's like it's the thing that humans do, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
it's all of that's neat. And the episodes, I guess there's 2 of them where Goku recruits 17. The animation in those is fucking out of this world.
Yeah, the Goku 17 fight particularly is just like it sets up how good the fights are going to start looking in the tournament.
Yeah, so I love that. And then of course you get the big surprise here, which is the return of the evil emperor himself, Frieza. When you realize that they're doing it, you just have to sit back and cackle that they're going there because it is so obvious but also audacious.
But because it is really obvious, and it's been something, as soon as they started talking about and setting up the Tournament of Power stuff, I'm like, oh man, I hope they need to bring Frieza back because Frieza's so good. It's the thing that is the best part about Resurrection F to me is just having Frieza back and being at the top of the classic Dragon Ball villain food chain and having him be the most powerful of them because he's the most memorable. He's the best Dragon Ball villain.
Yeah, he is. I mean, it's
fucking Frieza.
Because what's fun with Frieza also is I think Frieza is a character who Toriyama wrote and he's great in the manga, but the anime kind of took and ran with because Ryusei Nakao is so good as that character. And it's like all the villains are well voiced, but I think Ryusei Nakao did the most to like elevate what Toriyama wrote off the page as the villain. And it's just kind of at a certain point, like, because Ryusei Nakao is a regular on Super. He's in every arc, either as Frost or Frieza, other than the Future Trunks stuff. But he's there throughout all of it. And he should be. He's such a good part of that cast. He's such a natural fit for it. And I think bringing back Frieza and making him a longer term villain / frenemy is the right way to go.
Yeah, and I love that the way that they do it in the Tournament of Power stuff is that through like the whole building up the team thing, you have all the like the OP and the ED and stuff and like the eye catches. You have Majin Buu is in all that shit. And for a long time, you think Majin Buu's going to be in the team. And you have the whole episode where Goku goes and recruits Majin Buu. You have the whole exhibition tournament.
No, you have the thing where Buu has gotten all buffed up.
Yes, Buu goes and Buu decides to trade and it's super weird looking buff Buu and that's great. Buu's in the exhibition tournament. And it's also like a build off of a joke from the Universe 6 Universe 7 tournament where Buu couldn't do it because he failed the test, right? And so they're all like, it's playing off that and you think, oh, Buu's going to be in it. And I like Majin Buu a lot, but I don't think there's not a lot more to do with him. He's a fun presence when you can have him be there in like a movie.
He's the guy you want to piss off Beerus because he won't give up the pudding.
Yes, and he's good. Like the exhibition match that he has with one of the Trio de Dangers.
Trio de Dangers.
Yeah, is like that's all the Buu I needed. And I was happy you got a good Buu episode with that fight. But I was like, I really don't think I need Majin Buu in the tournament. And then it's like, oh, nope, Buu's not going to be in the tournament. Oh yeah, yes, Goku's going to go to hell, and yes, he's going to break out Frieza, and it's the best. Just that whole sequence where they're like, they're back at Fortune Teller Baba's like palace or whatever, and they're just like hate flirting with each other, and Frieza punches Goku in the gut. He's like, oh, and then they're talking, and then Goku punches Frieza in the gut. It's like, yes, this is what I wanted. Because I don't want Frieza to go full Vegeta. I don't want, like, he can't ever be a good guy. But having the circumstances be so extreme that they literally need to work together and have to see those characters bounce off of each other that way, it's so good. It's what you want.
I said this before, they just go full Spike from Buffy with him.
Yes.
But like season 4 Spike from Buffy, where he's not Buffy's like lover yet. But you can see they're going to fuck at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because they are totally hate flirting the entire fucking arc. It is all this like tit for tat. Like there's the scene in the tournament after the first fight with Jiren where Frieza gives Goku energy, which is both a payback for what happened in the Frieza arc, but also Frieza needs Goku around to like win this thing for him. And it's just this great constant flirtation that keeps getting elevated, and I love it. Oh, it's good stuff. Okay. So, yes, they have that recruitment. Frieza also does some evil shit where he kills all the assassins sent to kill him.
Right, yes.
And, yep, and then we get the actual tournament, Sean. Off to space we go. Uchu go. Anyway,
yes.
It's good stuff. And now we have the actual tournament. It's like the last 33 episodes of the series. It is very long. And I think it's interesting to talk about why the Tournament of Power works, for us at least, and why it shouldn't. Because on paper, it's a horrible idea to some degree. Because what you're having is one big battle royale on one stage, one set for 33 episodes, where we're going to have 80 people fight until there's no one left. And we're going to be erasing tournaments or universes in the middle, which sounds too dark for Dragon Ball. And it sounds like that could get awfully repetitive, awful fast. And I know for some people it did. I don't think it's perfectly paced, but I think it's largely surprisingly well paced. And I think the last 20 episodes or so especially are. Yeah. I think it gets off to a little of a rough start for me when they are first starting and don't quite know where to focus things. But overall it works, and it is propulsive, and I think they find ways to keep the battlefield changing and shifting and doing stuff with the backgrounds to make it not so monochromatic. And obviously the fight choreography is very good. You also wonder, like, are they going to be able to make this feel character-focused when it's all fights? And they do. It very much harkens back to me, I think, to a lot of the stuff in the Tenkaichi Budokai tournaments where Toriyama would further character through the fights. Yep. And I think there's a lot of that in here. I think the amount of new characters we meet, and are all of them a home run? No. Some of the designs are stupid, but they did have to design 80 new characters, and the fact that at least half of them are kind of cool is fucking amazing. Yeah. I think the Universe 11 people, especially Toppo, who is my favorite, are generally really cool to have. And overall, it works. It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, and I think part of it is it does the thing that Dragon Ball Super had been doing the whole time, which is it surprises you. Like, that tournament did not in any way go anywhere near the way that I was expecting it to, structurally, in terms of like specific narrative beats, anything. Like you said, like Andrew 17 winning that tournament, would never have guessed that, ever. I would have guessed that Krillin would win the tournament.
That would actually make sense if you knew that the end would be Goku, Frieza versus a really strong guy and one human to help them. You would have guessed Krillin.
I mean, I was actually pretty sure for a good stretch at the beginning of the tournament before they, because you knew that Jiren was going to be a big thing before you even knew who Jiren was because he's in the fucking opening. But I was sure that, the end of this tournament's going to be Goku versus Frieza. Frieza's got his evil plan. He's hatching in the background. Something's going to happen. And he's going to... Because I love, Frieza has, this, fun antagonistic thing with the gods. It's a very one-sided antagonism where he's like, one day I'm going to fuck you guys up. And the gods don't even really know he exists. Beerus doesn't give a shit about him. But, Frieza doesn't... Frieza can't tolerate having people more powerful than him around, and so, of course, he's kind of got his vision set on the gods. And I thought, for a long time at the beginning, before they started doing Nigate no Goku or Ultra Instinct and that stuff, I thought that that's where the tournament was going to start going eventually.
Interesting.
It was eventually going to narrow down to a fight between Goku and Frieza, and not to say that I think that would have been a good idea. I just, in my head, I was, trying to think of where it would go, since Jiren had not had anything really about him yet, and he had no development. I thought, that's like a red herring in the OP. Anime does that all the time, and the real thing's going to be Goku versus Frieza ultimately. And what they actually do, I think, is so much smarter, which is they take their time with the tournament, focusing in on individual characters and giving characters their own episodes, both for, obviously, our main people from Universe 7, but then also gives big moments and interesting looks at other characters, particularly the characters from Universe 6, like Hit and Kabe, and it gives them some good moments.
And our new science, Kale and...
and Caulifla.
Caulifla, yeah.
Yeah, and just having this willingness to do what Dragon Ball Super had always done, which is have a really sharp sense of who our characters are, where they're at, and how to further them in a very strong episodic model where, some of the most memorable episodes in all of Dragon Ball are some of the stuff here with when Muten Roshi has his episode and that kind of stuff. that feels, or I remember you tweeted about this one about the like the crazy Full Metal Jacket fucking sniper fight that happens with Gohan and Piccolo and Tenshinhan. That's like Tenshinhan's big moment where he like sort of gets himself out to take those guys out. Like all that, or you have, there's just so many good little ideas that not all of them are perfect, and there are definitely some pacing issues, but overall, you have so many strong individual episodes and so many strong trends and so many strong themes to build on that it works its way up to then having the much more focused, what feels like a much more sort of traditional, like not like more like serialized story where when it starts paring down to our last couple of fighters, where it is still always episodic, but it gets more to that Goku Black, like page turner kind of feeling of like, I need to see what happens the next episode. Like I need to see Goku and Jiren fight. I need to see what's happening with Vegeta and Toppo.
Yeah, I mean, I told the story that the way I finished Super was on a Tuesday night. I had nothing else to do. Well, let me rephrase that. I had so much else to do, but I wasn't able to focus on it because I was thinking of Super, and I was just in kind of a sour mood, and I knew what would make me happy is Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball always makes me happy. Yep. And so I sat down and I watched the final 9 episodes in one sitting, and I made a pizza, and it was great.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think, one of the reasons why the Tournament of Power works so much for me is it's like, is while like there are bits of inconsistent pacing, it has strong pacing in the sense of that like it's not paced the same way throughout. It starts slow, and maybe it's a little bit too slow in some of those parts, but it allows that to build like the fabric that then it ultimately goes for this really ambitious, crazy conclusion that has a really fast, absurd pace to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it works for kind of the same fundamental reasons the Tenkaichi Budokai arcs work, which is, like, those arcs, too, are, at their core, they are all fighting in terms of what is the action that happens. And I think, contrary to popular belief, Dragon Ball is not all fighting. There's plenty of arcs that are primarily adventure, or in the Frieza arc, it's until you get to the actual confrontation with Frieza, it's mostly not fighting. It's mostly going around and doing kind of a cat and mouse game. Or the Cell arc is a lot of mystery and intrigue and figuring shit out. And oftentimes it is when Dragon Ball just gets down to the fight that sometimes it gets the most boring to people, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the tournaments never feel that way to me because it's focused and it's often character stuff. Like in the first tournament, it's Goku with all this boundless ambition trying to prove himself at this fun new tournament.
Yeah, and in Muten Roshi is Jackie Chan trying to just be like, I can't let these little kids win their first ever Tenkaichi Budokai because I'm afraid that they will never like have ambition past that point.
And he's fucking right, because I think it's that Goku loses that like is his inspiration the rest of that part of the series, because that's why they do the time jump after Piccolo, is because Goku has achieved his goal, which was winning that fucking tournament, you know? And in the second one with Tenshinhan, it's that, like, Tenshinhan is this character who's deeply conflicted, who goes through this whole arc over the course of that in conflict with Goku. And then the final one is, adult Goku. That's where Chi-Chi comes in, and they get married, and all this stuff with Piccolo Jr. And I think they are able to activate a lot of character work through the fighting, and I think Super does that in the Universe Survival arc, only now it's not 16 fighters, it's 80.
Yeah.
And are all 80 interesting characters? No, and they don't try to make them, but all of the Universe 7 fighters are. They use all 10 of them extraordinarily well.
Yep.
And then I think they use, from a lot of the other universes, in different degrees very well at different points. Even Krillin, who is the first out from Universe 7, I think his episode where he gets out is really good because he's really badass. And when he gets kicked out, it's genuinely surprising because he just gets kicked by Frost at the end in the back. And you're like, oh my god, what happened? And it does a good job of setting up the stakes. And then Krillin gets to do what he does best, which is, commentate from the stands.
I mean, yes, it's like it's Krillin is your like primo the Dragon Ball character for the cutaway to someone watching the fight and having them explain. It's like, no, Gohan, you see they're moving so fast that you can't follow them with your eyes. Like focus with your ki. Like that's past original Dragon Ball. That's what you want. What you most need Krillin to do for you.
Yes. And I think everyone else, every exit that a Universe 7 character has is fucking cool.
Yeah.
The only one that genuinely disappointed me was Piccolo, because he gets, I forget which, it's the invisible guys. Who they can't sense, and he just, because Piccolo does something stupid, and he goes and stands on the edge and looks over and like, what's going on? And they just throw him off. And that was the only one that disappointed me because it felt out of character for Piccolo.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're all really great. I mean, man, when 18 goes out to like get 17 back on the stage, one, most prescient move anyone makes in this tournament.
Yep.
Because 17 as the utility player, like who gets you the most points, it's 17.
Yes. I mean, he's got that fucking perpetual energy machine, man. Like, you need that guy in there.
Yes. So that's really great. Man, Roshi, he's got a couple episodes here, but the one where he really just goes all out, and it's great character work with him. And, I realized that, this is not the original Muten Roshi voice actor. He died near the very end of Z.
Yeah.
And I've always missed him because he was so perfect for that. But I realized how much this Master Roshi has grown on me during that episode because it's a good voice for him.
Yeah, and that's where you just get what is to me the biggest tearjerker in all of Dragon Ball, maybe just all of Dragon Ball, is Goku, like his concern for Master Roshi because,
when they think he's dead. Yeah,
when he thinks he's dead, and it's just Goku going Ji-chan, and it's that like because he's been calling Master Roshi that the whole time. The whole, you go, and because it's still Masaka Nozawa, you go back to the first episode where he comes in and he's just Kame-sending.
When Dragon Ball was still in single-digit episodes.
Exactly, yeah. He rides in, he's got the fucking Dragon Ball necklace, and, the first time you ever see this character, this is pre-Kamehameha even happening. This is before you saw him do that. That's how he starts calling him that, referring to that character.
Chi-chan.
Yeah, and having that come back, it has so much weight behind it.
Yeah.
It really hurt.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I love that Muten Roshi, he does such a good job that ultimately they're all I think Vegeta is even there when this happens. He's just just jump off. You're okay. You did a great job. Yeah. And so he just jumps off, and then Beerus is like, that was pretty cool. And that's great, because Beerus' role in this, you said this once, that maybe the best use of Beerus in the series is just in the stands in this tournament. And I think you're right, because his gradual growing to respect all of the Dragon Ball characters is so cool.
Yeah, because he's this ultra powerful, aloof, godlike, not godlike being, literally God being, who's charged with destroying things in the universe. And you see how callous he is so much, and that he does live in a different fucking sphere of existence than other people do, and having him come around to referring to Gohan by his name and stuff like that.
Oh, because the whole really time powerful. He's saying Goku no Musko.
Yes, yeah, Goku's son.
And then finally he says, no, Gohan.
Yeah, Gohan.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, Gohan has some great stuff. Gohan goes out with Dispo near the end.
Yes.
And that's so cool.
That's such an incredible sequence where he has Frieza's firing those, finger lasers up to create this, cage, and Gohan's fucking brawling with Dispo in that cage so he can't, because Dispo is super fast and he can't maneuver well enough when he's in this confined space. It's such a good use of Gohan as an intellectual figure, in that Dispo normally would be able to wipe the floor with Gohan with the speeds that he can move at, but Gohan using the tools available to him in cooperating with Frieza allows him to win.
And then there's a really great callback to Goku Piccolo saving Gohan, where with Raditz, where Gohan winds up doing the body lock on Dispo and tells Frieza get us out of here. Yeah. And it's Frieza is Piccolo here, Gohan is Goku, and Dispo is Raditz, and it's really cool, and it's just a very 360 full circle moment. And I just as the fighters drop out, you feel like they've made the fullest use of each of these characters along the way. And then you get down to the end where it's just the Universe 11 characters and the Universe 7 characters. And, once it's down to Frieza, 17, Goku, Vegeta, and then Jiren and Toppo. I mean, man, there's some good stuff there. Let's talk about Toppo and Jiren.
Yes.
Well, actually, you know what? Before we even do that, let's back up a little bit. We went past Caulifla and Kale and Kefla, their fused form.
Yeah.
I love all the stuff with the extra science. It's really cool to see new ones. So a lot of the character designs in this arc were done by Toyotaro, the author of the Dragon Ball Super manga, not by Toriyama. Toriyama did a lot of them too, but he couldn't design 80 new characters.
Yeah.
So they had Toyotaro do a lot of them. I know a lot of fans didn't like this because they don't look like Dragon Ball characters. I don't love all of them, but I do like that a lot of the designs don't look like what we've seen before, because that makes them seem more alien.
Yeah, especially because they're supposed to be from totally different universes. If they looked exactly like Dragon Ball characters, I think it would make the multiverse feel very constrained.
Yeah. Kaba definitely looks like a Toriyama design to me. I don't know who did Kefla or Kale and Caulifla. They look a little more Toyotaro-esque to me. But whatever the case, I like that the other universe Saiyans don't look like our Saiyans. They're thinner and smaller. But I like those characters. Kale as like sexy girl Broly freaks me out a little bit. But, you know, it's a good episode.
Yeah.
And then when they merge, it's such a great fight. And, of course, we've talked about it on the podcast before. But the coolest thing that has ever happened in Dragon Ball shall always be Goku versus Kefla. Kefla is all powered up, firing shit at Goku. And Goku jumps up while charging a Kamehameha. We've got the fucking awesome insert song, Ultimate Battle, playing. And as she fires this giant beam, he flips, slides on his own Kamehameha up, flips over again, and fires in her face.
Yeah. Ha! And then it does, like, straight up just, like, cuts and shows the blast three times from 3 different perspectives, and she gets blasted off the stage. Yeah, that is the coolest fight. That's the coolest fight thing ever. Like, it's just...
That's a moment where I was sitting in, like, my chair that's in my living room, and I, like, lean back, and I'm, like, got my hands through my hair going, oh my god, and I lean back so far I almost fall over.
That's where I spent like 3 hours watching people on YouTube react to that scene. It's the only time I've ever been grateful that there's this entire bizarre community of like YouTube reacts to things ever. Like, it's the only time I've ever sought that out was like, because you weren't fucking watching Dragon Ball Super.
I'm sorry.
Like, I need to experience this joy with someone else because this is the coolest fucking thing in the world. And just watching like people from all over the world, like watching different like subtitled versions of stuff in different languages, and just seeing that like it's a universal badassness.
Yes.
Just that fucking Kamehameha.
It's so good. And then, and that's also where, I mean, also because I think the real turning point for the tournament to me, because you have some really good episodes up to this, but when Jiren comes out to play for the first time, which I think is really smart that they didn't just save Jiren for the end, but he comes out to play, and this is where Goku has the first fight against him. It's the first time he flirts with Megate no Gokui, and with Ultra Instinct in the subtitles, and you get Ultimate Battle, the insert song for the first time. That's when it feels like the tournament kicks into that next gear, and it never lets up past that point.
Because that's the point where it becomes clear. Like, not to say that like everything is obvious. Like, again, still would not have guessed that Andrew 17 would win at this point. It becomes clear, like, this is what the tournament is becoming now. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about like the Megate no Gokui stuff, just because I think it's so cool. Because it's something that I've always wanted a shonen thing to try out, and there have been different series that have flirted with it a little bit. And it's like, you know, Goku or Dragon Ball kind of flirts with this with the Super Saiyan stuff in the Android Saga and trying to like explore the boundaries of Super Saiyan. But I've always wanted a shonen thing where the main character gets the transformation partway through the arc and then has to spend the arc mastering the transformation, rather than it being the thing that all of these are, which is at the end, like halfway through the climactic battle, the hero is pushed to their absolute limits, and that's when they achieve the transformation. It's the first time you ever see it. You know, that's the standard set by the Goku going Super Saiyan. I love this of, you know, he tests the waters a couple of times with Megate no Gokui, and it's not quite fully formed yet. And I love just like the animation on it in the real sense of Goku still doesn't quite know what this thing he stumbled into is. And after he'll punch Kefla or something and kind of look at his hand and kind of like squeeze it a little bit. And there's a sense of he's pushing the boundaries of this new power he's discovered. It's just such a fun, different dynamic that's not just the same thing we've seen every single time someone gets a fucking transformation in this stuff. It's
also got a totally different logic, because the logic of Ultra Instinct is not, I got stronger. Because technically he doesn't get stronger with it.
Right.
What it is that he stops thinking. Like, they have this, it's foreshadowed in the Resurrection F movie, and then in the TV adaptation in Super, where Whis has this whole thing about how you're never going to be fast enough if you think about it, because the thought has to travel to your limb. Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he says you have to be able to move independently of that, and it is exactly what it sounds like with the term Ultra Instinct. It's going completely off of being in the moment. It's a very like, it sounds like something you'd see in a wuxia movie at the end.
Yes.
Like at the end of A Touch of Zen or something. That's what it feels like.
And that's one of the reasons why I like it so much conceptually as a transformation, is that it's not just a power boost, as you're saying. It's more philosophical, and it's one of those things that like gets back to this sense that I love so much of Goku on this like journey through like a martial arts fable, that he's the hero in a martial arts fable, that he's attaining this state of like nothingness, of mindlessness, of like complete focus. Yeah. And the phrase I'm fine with the Ultra Instinct. That's not even like a dub term. That's like the official Japanese English term for what it is. Obviously, because the dub isn't even here yet. But the term Migate no Gokui in Japanese is so fucking good because basically what it like quite literally means is like the height of selfishness, like the ultimate peaks of selfishness. Like the Goku in Gokui is the same Goku in Gokudo, which is like the word for
it's not Yakuza. Goku, by the way.
Yeah, it's not Goku. That's a different thing.
Because actually we transliterate Goku wrong. It should be Gokuu or with a line over it. So this is just Goku.
Yes, and it's the same. So like Yakuza Kiwami, the Kiwami in Yakuza Kiwami, that's the same character as the Goku in Gokui, and it means like extreme and extremity. And the Migate, if people who watch a lot of anime in Japanese probably have heard the term like kate nakoto, like kate no koto surena, like don't just do something on your own. That's like that kate. That's the same like kate as gate and migate, with the me being me for body. And so it's like this total inner focus, and it's the height of like total inner focus is what the phrase quite literally means if you break it down to its kanji components. And I love how it expresses that concept to it, but it's also it's one of the things I was saying when I said a couple of weeks ago that like the best use of Beerus is probably as like this commentator in the stands, is that the best thing the Beerus voice actor has ever said is every single time that he goes Migate no Gokui. It's the best. It's it like and it gets better every time he says it, especially when you get to Goku's perfected it, and he's just like Toto kitana kanzen naru Migate no Gokui. And it's just such a aesthetically pleasing phrase. I just like to say Migate no Gokui.
Oh, it's great. And I do I agree that I don't know what a better thing than Ultra Instinct would be for an English speaking audience. But I do, it saddens me that the English Beerus, who is English Beerus and Whis might be my favorite voices in the dub. They're because really they weren't trying to imitate old dub voices from the 90s. Them and Krillin, they can all come along in my fantasy dub. But anyway, they're really good, and I'm sad that this actor will only get to say Ultra Instinct and not Megate no Gokui.
Megate no Gokui. It's just the pacing of it as an aesthetic phrase is poetic. I love it so much.
Yes, I love that. I thought you were also going to say my other favorite moment with Beerus in this is when, in the first fight with Jiren, they think Goku's just been lost, and then something is happening. He's coming back. There's a big ball of light, and someone says, "What's going on?" And it's just this zoom in on Beerus, and he says, "He's coming."
Kuruzo. Yeah.
Kuruzo. And then it's cut to the commercial break is where that comes in. And it's just, oh man.
It's so good. It's, everything with that.
Let's also talk about the visuals of Megate no Gokui, because it's such a cool transformation. Because here's the thing about Super Saiyan. I'm going to say something controversial here.
Okay.
It's never been my favorite look for any of the characters. It's good. It's cool. It's obviously cool. We wouldn't have gotten this far if it wasn't cool. But let's be real for a second. Toriyama himself says this in one of the intros to the volumes. The reason he did Super Saiyan the way he did it is so he wouldn't have to fill in the black on Goku's hair. Actually, not specifically him. His assistant had to do it, and he wanted to save his assistant time because Toriyama was a cheapskate, and he drew the entire manga. Every week, he had his assistant there one day a week, and that's the way he did it. He did it alone, and he had his assistant there one day a week to do inking. And that was it. And he wanted to save his assistant time, and so he said, if they've got yellow hair, I don't have to draw anything there.
Yeah, and it's similar logic as to why Goku lost his tail. He's like, I just kind of don't want to draw the tail anymore.
So that's why Super Saiyan looks the way it does. And there's a reason to me Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue look more interesting, because I think Red and Blue, you have to do a lot more to work that into the palette. It's not just their hair got brighter and they got blue eyes now. It's that it's a much bigger reworking of the character design, and with Super Saiyan Blue in particular, I think it pushes them to do a lot of stuff with backgrounds and environments because it's such a striking color. You can't just be out in a grassy field anymore. You have to do something really interesting with it. And I think those designs, particularly Super Saiyan Blue, just grips me so much more because it feels like less a decision of artistic convenience than... It's hard to draw Super Saiyan Blue, I think.
Yeah.
That's a much more difficult thing to do. It's also something that literally you couldn't do in a manga the same way because mangas are in black and white.
Yeah.
Except for the rare color chapters. This is these are choices made for an anime. And Megate no Gokui is also something where it's not just something that you can only do in an anime because it revolves around this shimmer and the way he moves and everything, but also like you couldn't have done it in the anime in the 90s or the 80s because it is this mix of hand-drawn and CG elements that I think blend really well, and it feels like the transformation of this moment. It's not backwards looking. It's like, well, we could only do this now when we're doing this anime first. I know there is a manga. I'm actually very curious about how Toyotaro draws some of these things in the manga. But, you're doing this anime first. We have new technology to do this. We can make it look really cool. And it's a transformation that allows Goku to, like, keep his base, like, black hair form and slimmer body figure. I love all that. It's part of the reason I also always loved Kaioken.
Yeah.
Even though Kaioken isn't used much. I always thought Kaioken was cooler than Super Saiyan because, I don't know, it's like adding to what Goku is, not changing it in a weird way. And I think that's what this form does as well.
Yeah, I agree. Because it also just captures a little bit more of, like, the sensation of... it goes further when he becomes the perfected Migate no Goku, although I like the visual language of, all the gods have white hair, so Goku, when he gets that state, having white hair works for me. But having, like, it keep the basic silhouette of Goku, it communicates something of, like, the same kind of thing as when Gohan achieves his huge power-up in the Buu arc. I like the idea of, like, there are other ways to gain this incredible power that has nothing to do with you being a Saiyan, and that so hypothetically, if Krillin fucking really got on his shit, Krillin maybe could achieve the state of Migate no Goku. I'm not saying that I want to see that arc, but like
I want to see that in a video game, like in a side story.
Yes, I mean, when you do all the weird Dragon Ball heroes, like capsule games, all the extra shit that Dragon Ball has, you have fucking Super Saiyan 4 Broly's running around. Give me a fucking Migate no Goku Krillin. Yes, like in that sphere, I want to play as that in like a Xenoverse game for sure. But I just like the knowledge that our characters are not as powerful as they are just through like a biological quirk that they can attain this incredible form. It's anybody could do this.
What do you think about what I call SSSGSS Vegeta, which is sparkly Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Vegeta?
I think like they could have done a little bit more to like sell the transformation in terms of like how he gets, like, where he gets this power from. Is like, there's like, it's the one thing about the turn of power that I think there's like a little bit too much of our heroes have been pushed to the point of like no return, and then like 10 episodes in, and then like they like Goku's building and Vegeta are building their stamina back up, and like it maybe does that cycle a couple more too many times. But the color design for like that really deep, rich blue that version of Vegeta has is fucking awesome.
And I think the character logic for it is great, where he's like, you keep your fucking Migate no Goku.
Yeah.
Or Kakarot, because he never will ever call him Goku.
Yeah. So that's when like, Vegeta dies for good. That will be the only time he ever calls Goku Goku.
He's like, you keep that. I'm going to do it my way. And his way is to like expand upon this Saiyan transformation. That feels totally accurate.
Yes, the character logic is good. Yeah. Like, it's just one of those like, okay, these characters should have been dead a while ago.
Okay.
I don't usually skirt up. I'm very tolerant of anime bullshit in that kind of logic way. I think that's the one thing about the Tournament of Power that I'm like, you could have maybe not had Goku be so destroyed a couple of times throughout it, and Vegeta be like so destroyed a couple of times throughout, to sell a little bit more that they would have had power to fight Jiren at the end.
Yeah. All right, so you want to talk a little bit about the final characters we get from Universe 11, Toppo and Jiren. Toppo is seeded throughout much more because he's there in the exhibition match.
Yeah.
He introduces himself to Goku. He has a fight with him. He is kind of our point of view character onto Universe 11 and the entire Justice Force. What are they called?
The Pride Troopers.
The Pride Troopers. Justice Force. I'm close.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pride Troopers. They're great. Yeah. And, I really like Toppo. I think I get why Jiren is the big bad, and I like him as a like wall to overcome. But as a character, Toppo is where it's at.
Yeah, I especially adore the twist of he's like a god of destruction in training, and when he like makes that turn, is like, no, fuck it, I'm just going to use my like destruction god key stuff, and like I'm going to really let loose and it's like, I don't care. Justice has its limits. I'm going to win this fucking thing.
I like that also, like, the Pride Troopers are like a weird window into, like, if the if the Z Warriors were what like the English dub always characterized them to be, that's who they would be. It's all about justice, and like that's not who Goku is at all. But that's who these guys are, and I like that. And I like that Toppo is pushed so far because like this is his whole life. He will never stop fighting for his universe. That he would even give up everything he believes in to become a Hakaishin.
Yeah,
and that's great. And also it puts him into conflict with Vegeta in a really interesting way, where Vegeta defeats Toppo in part because he's like, I'm disgusted by you that you would give up your pride. That's everything. And in a weird way, you see Vegeta having gone through this circuitous path where he was evil, became more or less good. He has a kind of a better view on this sense of morality than Toppo does, having been on this one path his whole life. He definitely, it's because it is interesting that he starts out the arc feeling like he's going to be a foil for Goku, but he ultimately is more fitting for Vegeta. Yeah. And then you have Jiren. And Jiren is also kind of a controversial character because he is much less characterized than most Dragon Ball villains. We've never really had a villain in the main canon. There's movie villains, obviously, who I would say are this sort of abstract. Even Boo, when he's like brought into the main team, you know, you would say that we maybe know more about Boo than we do Jiren. But I think he works in part because I think he's a striking character design.
Yeah.
And I think he is this weird mirror image of Goku where he and Goku on the surface are so similar in that they are all about the attainment of power. But Jiren has done that by cutting himself off from all worldly ties, and Goku hasn't, and that is what allows Goku to prevail.
Yeah.
And it's a common anime theme. Friendship is magic, you know, come on. Every anime does it.
But it's about the execution of the theme.
And I think it's done really well. And I think that as a contrast works because, you know, at the end of the day, Dragon Ball, like Goku's biggest, you know, opponent is himself and his own power, not the people opposite him.
Yeah.
And I think that works here.
Yeah, I've really liked Jiren a lot as a villain, and I know that in the section of the Dragon Ball fandom that's like a weirdly controversial opinion, but it is like one, I love his, because at first I hated his design because I looked at his design. It's like he's just a weird dude. There's nothing for you to hang on his design. There's no like his color scheme is very normal. He's gray with like wearing the Pride Trooper uniform you'd already seen with Toppo. Like there's nothing striking about his character design in like the way that you look at a Majin Buu, you look at a Cell, you look at a Frieza. Those are characters that like stand out and are very distinctive. But then, but my introduction to Jiren was just his appearance in the OP. And that was for like 20 episodes before I actually saw the fucking guy. And then once you see him and see him in the environment and how they use him in the story, I started to love so much he is like literally built like a brick wall. Like he is the visual like epitome of power. He's just this big, broad guy that is all muscle. And he's just like, even his head looks like a big muscle sprouted out from like his neck. You know, it's like that's all he is this big wall of power for Goku to try to overcome. And as you said, you know, while the friendship is how we win the day and it's our bonds with others that give us power.
Bonds of people is the true power.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is in no way some sort of original theme for Dragon Ball to explore. But of course it's like, this is a shonen show. It is like this genre is going to explore themes like that, and particularly it's because Dragon Ball typically doesn't like specifically focus in that direction. Like it has those elements are there all along from the beginning. It is a show in this genre, but it's not it's not Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not like putting a spotlight on that all the time, and for it to go all this distance from, the 80s till now and going from Dragon Ball through all of Dragon Ball Z and all the, extraneous, superfluous material like a Dragon Ball GT or the movies and going through that to now and how strong Dragon Ball Super has always been with its character stuff. I found it ultimately really affecting to me because it does feel like it comes from such an honest place of understanding of Goku as a character and legitimately how he has gotten to this point. And that Jiren having attained, and there's like this like legitimate level of respect from Goku that he gives to Jiren, where he says, "Man, you're amazing. You got this powerful completely on your own. That's incredible." Because and Goku could have never done that.
And he never becomes more powerful than Jiren in this arc.
Not really.
He wins on a weird, like, fluke technicality kind of, like, if they were just in one of the, grassy meadowlands in the main
Rocky
fighting,
Field,
if they were in Rocky Field, he'd lose. But because of this, I like that moment too.
Yeah, and it's just, and it gives you this insight and like this reflective moment with Goku of, we've been with him on this journey since he was literally a 12-year-old boy, and seen how he has gotten to where he is has always been through the help of others. Like, he didn't overcome Tao Pai Pai on his own. He needed Karin-sama. Like, he didn't overcome my Junior Piccolo on his own. He needed Kami. It's like, and all throughout he has had all these teachers and all these friends that have pushed him and helped him along the way. And that's always how Goku has become more powerful. And I think it's because Dragon Ball is a series that never stops and lingers on its themes. Like, it never stops and like focuses on the fact that the reason why Goku can become Super Saiyan is because of his friendship with Krillin. It's just accepted that that's the emotional trigger. It's not like, there's no it's not doing a Naruto thing where there's this huge flashback that's like an episode-long flashback of all the times that Goku and Krillin have been together, and every friendship moment is like, oh, and here's them, carrying the milk bottles when they were training, and here's Krillin being a dick and stealing the rock with the Kame symbol on it and tricking Goku. It's not doing all of that, because that's not the series that Dragon Ball typically is. That for Dragon Ball Super to take this moment of what I knew when I was watching the section was the end of this run of the anime, and this was before the movie, I even knew anything about the movie happening, of being like, this is the grace note that Dragon Ball Super, as we understand it, chooses to end on, I found really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it ends with its best foot forward, and that's actually one of the big things here is that, like, throughout this point, like, the end of a Super arc had never been the most important part,
Yeah.
Like, I really like the end of Universe 6 versus 7, but it's not, like, the emotional height of that arc. Mm-hmm. The end of the Future Trunks arc is bumbling, frankly, and then this is really powerful. And even if you go back through Dragon Ball history, there are some points where Dragon Ball stories end on their absolute best note, like the Cell arc or something. But there's also ones that just kind of, like, they reach a great crescendo, but the actual finale is not what you remember. Like, the crescendo of Goku going Super Saiyan in the Frieza arc, amazing. Quick, tell me how he actually defeats Frieza. I think most people actually couldn't do it.
Bakayaro!
Yeah.
Yes, that's
right.
But, I mean, because then you also get into all the weeds of, like, and then we've used the Namek, or the Earth Dragon Balls to revive the Guru, or the Great Elder on Namek, and that'll give us wishes on the, there's, like, all this, like, weird Dragon Ball trading,
yes.
like, rule bending that goes on in that arc. But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It's the Super Saiyan thing that people remember.
And Dragon Ball Super just ends on the absolute highest of highs with Frieza is there, and 17 is there, and Goku is there, and Goku almost wins with Megate no Gokui, but then he has to pay the price for it, and his body is wrecked, and Frieza starts fighting Jiren, and Jiren is fucking wrecked at this point, and they're all on their last legs, and then Frieza, turns to Goku and says, "You'll keep your promise, right?" And Goku's like, I will you?" And they're like, "Okay, let's do it." And Frieza's like, "Toss me!"
Yeah.
Like Gimli in fucking Lord of the Rings. And Goku tosses him, and then Goku just flies down, and he's like flickering in and out of Super Saiyan, and they grab Jiren, and they fucking rush off the stage together. It's so, and then 17 is there, and he gives up his wish of getting a yacht to wish all the other universes back. And then, of course, they all remember, wait, I have a really rich friend named Bulba Briefs, and she can give me a yacht. And it's such a...
17 can get a fucking yacht if he wants one.
It's, oh man, it's such a good ending.
Yeah, and then you go back to Goku and Vegeta in the Rocky Plains or whatever, in their poses.
Just having a fight again. And, oh man, it's a great show. It's a great ending. And I think it ends on a great note where if this were the last they did with it, you'd be fine. And you'd say, okay, that was super, and then we can tack on the epilogue from Z, and that's where it sits for us. But it also is open enough of, like, there are so many possibilities. Because, the big thing is that this ends with fucking Frieza resurrected.
Yes. Frieza's, like, assembling some weird galactic force in some corner of the universe.
Yep. And now we have the new movie. So before we look to the future, anything else to say about Super?
Really quickly, because we kind of skipped over her a little bit. I love Caulifla so much. I know there's a lot of people that don't care that much for that character, but there's something about I just like that we finally have, like, female Super Saiyans.
Yeah.
Like having female Saiyans that can fight. And that section,
because they were always there in the lore. Like, there's no like rule that says there's no women in the world. We just never had them.
Yeah, we had sexist people writing Dragon Ball GT who are like, Pan just can never go Super Saiyan, even though she's older than Goten and Trunks were when they went Super Saiyan for the first time. It always fucking pissed me off so much. And I love that Caulifla's character is like, I'm this weird like delinquent Yankee girl, because of course that's what a Lady Saiyan would be like, and I like the vocal performance a lot, and those characters are so much fun. And one of my favorite parts of like the build up of the Tournament of Power is Goku, because like Vegeta is paired off with Kabe because they have that pre-existing relationship. I like that Goku gets paired off with these two Saiyan ladies, and that's where you get a little bit of that Goku is pushing them and teaching them about like what it is to be Super Saiyan. And I always just like when Goku at this point in his life has that opportunity to teach people about martial arts kind of stuff, because it makes you feel the journey that he's been on. And so that's one of my sections of the Tournament of Power I love a lot that we kind of skipped over, is Goku kind of building them up through the different transformations.
Yeah, absolutely. Vegeta's last stand in the tournament also is magnificent, and it is very clearly a tribute to Hiro Mitsuru, who had died a couple weeks before that aired, and when he's falling out of the stage, and they play a series of clips of her from Super. It really hits. It hits hard. Mm-hmm. The amount of journey Vegeta has traveled up to this point is, I think, summarized really beautifully there, and him falling out of the arena and giving his last bit of energy to Kakarot is just... It's right. It's just they did it spot on. Yeah. Even though I think in the end, again, you would not predict that Vegeta would be fourth place from Universe 7, because there were 3 that survived after him. You would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I also think, really quickly, because you mentioned some of the music getting better once you got to the Goku Black stuff, I really love the soundtrack for all of the Universe survival stuff. Like, I'm with you that it's my favorite Dragon Ball music is always going to be the original music from Dragon Ball and Z, but you just can't do that anymore. Like, stylistically, I just don't think it would work. I don't think most like modern audiences are not going to accept that kind of music, even though it's so fucking good. Yeah. But if you have to do a different take on Dragon Ball music, this is awesome. And like the Ultimate Battle Song and the reworked versions of Genka, Topa X, Survivor, and that material, and just some of the really crazy choral music they do whenever like God stuff starts getting involved. Yep. I love it so much.
It's great.
And the Ultra Instinct theme is fucking amazing.
Yes.
People should look up some of like the great hip hop remixes that are on YouTube of that song, because it's so good.
Awesome. Well, looking forward, I mean, the next thing we have is this movie, Dragon Ball Super Broly. I've not looked up any spoilers.
I know one spoiler from Dragon Ball Legends, the mobile game I'm playing.
Okay.
You might know, you might not know, I don't know, but I will not risk saying.
Yeah. All I know is what's in the trailers and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But what I'll say is, I know the, fused character.
Okay, yes, that's the thing I was referring to.
Okay, well, that's in the trailers.
Yeah, but, it's the later trailers, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
There's a way that you could go see that movie and you would not know that that's in the movie.
It'd be fucking hard for me. Yeah. But anyway,
it would be impossible for me, because every time you load up the fucking mobile game, they play that trailer that you can bump out of. Like each day you load it up for the first time.
Nice.
So I've seen that character a lot because he's in the first shot of the trailer they used.
Well, I'm so curious because this movie is very clearly it's just the next step in the story. Yeah. Because Frieza's in it. One of my favorite lines I've heard from a review of Broly so far is that someone said, they're marketing it with Broly as the villain, but Frieza's the actual villain of this movie, and that excites me so much because that is absolutely the right tack to be taking. And what this movie is that fascinates me is it is essentially Toriyama being handed all these elements that he did not create for the series, like Broly, Bardock, which Bardock was originally not a Toriyama creation. He used him in the manga after that TV special, but the TV special was done. He helped on it, but it was not his thing. So you've got Broly, you've got Bardock, you've got the fused character who shall not be named. So you've got all these elements that are really from either the movies or the TV specials, and now it's Toriyama who wrote the script. So this is definitely his thing this time, because the anime is written by other people, but he supervised the storytelling.
Yeah.
But he wrote the script, and I'm really curious how he's going to bring all this stuff together. And the thing is, like, at first, before I had seen all of Super and I heard they're doing a Broly movie, I had to roll my eyes a little bit because Broly is a terrible character in the original movies.
Yeah.
But now I look at that and I know where they took everything. And the idea of Goku and Vegeta being confronted with a new Saiyan with untapped power and all this potential and them having to figure out what to do with this character fascinates me.
Yeah.
And my number one hope for the movie I don't want it to end with them killing Broly. It has to end with Broly becoming their friend. It just has to. It has to end with... Because Vegeta wouldn't do that at this point. Goku wouldn't do that at this point. Like, they would be like... Vegeta would take this as such a huge opportunity to be like, oh my god, there's a Saiyan in my universe I could be responsible for. And I'm really fascinated by that. And I also like the idea of Frieza coming in and trying to fuck them all up. Because he's an asshole. And so... I'm really curious about what's going to go down in this movie. I also know it's got, the prologue section we've seen in the trailers where it's going to go back and do the final days of Planet Vegeta, which I think for most fans, the canon version of that is the Bardock special from the TV show. Rightly so. That TV special is one of the best things ever made under the Dragon Ball banner. But Toriyama clearly views that as like, well, he didn't write it, so he feels like I'm going to do whatever I want with it. And I don't really love the Dragon Ball Minus chapter he did where he makes it like a Superman origin story. But in the context of this movie, who knows? I'm really curious to see what his take on Bardock, how it changes things.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm fascinated and I'm excited for this movie.
Yeah, I also like, there's two sort of new characters that seem like they're part of like the Frieza gang or something. And one of them is voiced by Mizuki Nana, who is a great voice actress. She does the voice for Hinata from Naruto. But then there's my boy Sugita Tomokazu, he's such a fucking amazing voice actor, but a really funny personality. He plays Yusuke in the Japanese version of Persona 5. He's also the main character from Gintama.
Oh, nice.
Which is what he's most known from. And I just, the other day, on my YouTube recommendations, because I've been watching some videos of Sugita because he's just a funny personality. He's like done funny things. I've been watching some Japanese videos of him on YouTube, and it like populated my recommended with a like little interview from around when they did the premiere in Japan, and I didn't know that he was in the movie, and it just made me so happy to see this. Like, here's this dude who grew. He's like the biggest nerd I know of that exists. Like, it's absurd. And seeing that, like, he gets to be in this movie and this, like, I just like the new generation of voice actors that get to participate in Dragon Ball.
Those are two pretty heavy hitters for side characters.
Yeah, they're heavy. They're big, heavy hitters. And it just seems like the love that this, like, new generation of voice actors have that, like, Sugita was partially inspired to get into voice acting by Norio Wakamoto's performance of Cell in the original Dragon Ball Z. So it's just, like, I love that element of it, and I love that like sense of Dragon Ball going forward and bringing new blood into it. It's awesome.
So I can't wait. Next week we're going to take a look back and talk about or further back, I guess, and talk about the Broly movies that preceded all of this, that laid the groundwork for there being a new Broly movie.
It's the reason why Broly is in every Dragon Ball video game ever.
And we'll talk about all of that. That'll be next week. And then the week after that, we get to see this fucking movie, Sean, and talk about it. Mm-hmm. I am so psyched. Cannot wait. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week, get ready for a lot of
Kakaroto!